me. I can listen to what you want to say, baby. When you're alone in the darkest night, maybe I can give the radio back. Open your heart and show your eyes that you can change your destiny. And grow your love, baby. The future is waiting for you. And show your eyes that you can change your destiny.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good time zone to you wherever you are out there in internet land. I don't know how to say that. I am back. I'm still streaming from the same place. I actually thought I would have a new background to show you by now, but just like things are never simple. Things are never simple as much as I want them to be. I'm still in the process of moving, and hopefully by the next time you see me, which I think will be Wednesday, I think I'm gonna have to give up Monday in order to get moved, and then Wednesday I will see you again. What am I looking for here? I'm looking for that awesome song that we always start the stream out with. And of course, like, YouTube isn't recommending it to me. So I'm gonna have to put it in myself. I'm gonna have to type it in. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Welcome, 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 everybody. We got some Alfs in chat. That's going old school. How are you doing, Impact Suspect? How are you doing, Iron Orchids? How are you doing, Crystal Saphira? And it should show me more, shouldn't it? It should show me more. There we go. Like, there's Twitch chat. Oh my god, Spark That Blood! Thank you for the resubscribe. Oh, yeah, God. You know what I'm noticing? Okay, so I got a little story to tell you before we start stream today. I know that, like, YouTube loves it when I do this. They click on the video because it says Ben Shapiro and Hasan Piker. She's gonna talk about that. No, of course not. She's gonna talk about random stuff. What's up, Karen Hall? We're gonna talk about random stuff, you know, from my life, right? Like the fact that you can't see the little thing that tells you how many. Oh my god, wait. Oh no! God, everything's so messed up. Okay, so chat, I don't know what happened, but canonically, I'm gonna say it was a cat. I'm gonna say that a cat got on my desk and pressed little buttons, and now, like, half of the things from my OBS setup are just missing. Just randomly missing, right? Including the stream alerts, right? Just gone, just deleted, just like, right? And that's all I can figure out because it's random. So it's like a little cat came up on here, you know, while I had OBS running and just, you know, typed away and like just randomly deleted stuff from my setup. So, yeah. Let's get, like, I'm trying to get these things back one by one. There's one. Oh, let's put this over here. That's a good place for that. Okay, so yeah, I had to recreate this scene this morning. That's what took me so long in getting to stream. The other thing that I noticed that was missing was... yeah, it's only stuff that was on... oh, wait, no, that makes sense. That makes sense that the stuff wouldn't be there. Twitch alerts. I need... there they are, Twitch alerts. And then the other thing is YouTube alerts. I need all the alerts. There's that. There's that. And then I think we're good now. I think we're, yeah. Sick of Kavarnacle calling Russell Brand a grifter, and he doesn't believe this rhetoric as if it makes it better or morally superior to someone who does believe the things that... 1 year subbing. I didn't even see that, Spark That Blood. Also, does he know him so well? Maybe Kavarnacle is... wait, am I gonna get this wrong? Kavarnacle is from the UK, right? Am I right about that? I think I'm right about that. And everybody in the UK knows each other, right? So yeah, Kavarnacle I think knows Russell Brand really well. They're probably next door neighbors. It's a small island with lots of turfs, right? So probably you know everybody that's not a turf. Wait, oh my god, is Russell Brand a turf though? That part I don't know. Russell Brand was always a tool. Well, Russell Brand made the thumbnail this time. I'm not sure why, because the main thing that we're talking about here is Dave Rubin. You know what? I do know why. I do know why Russell Brand's on there. Because we're talking about the Dark Web 2.0. We're not talking about the intellectual Dark Web version 1.0. We're talking about the new one, right? And that has some different characteristics, right? It's heavy on the conspiracies. Whereas like the old intellectual Dark Web tried to say, we are the rationalist atheists who think that liberalism and feminism has gone too far. These people have gotten too far into their feelings, and we're still the rational ones, right? So like, right, that was the come on of the old intellectual Dark Web. Whereas the new intellectual Dark Web, they are very much into conspiracies, and especially conspiracies that impact public health, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, we're gonna be getting into that in a second. The first thing I've got for you today is actually Hasan going after, well, I mean, I guess he did. Look, Hasan said a lot of stuff about Ben Shapiro that you would think maybe Ben Shapiro might be mad about. But Ben Shapiro doesn't usually react to Hasan. This time he did. This time he did, because what Hasan said was that Ben Shapiro's hatred for the new Barbie movie has a lot to do with his failure to make it as a screenwriter, right? So Hasan called Ben a failed screenwriter, and apparently that was enough to get his attention. That was enough to get his proverbial jimmies in a rustle. What is Sargon up to these days? You know what's, it's funny, I don't think anybody talks about Sargon. I have seen Lotus Eater's videos come up in my feed, in my recommended, but I haven't watched them, and I haven't heard anybody even mention Sargon. Meow. He had some court stuff. Shapiro also didn't like the new Knives Out. Yeah. And there's a lot of right-wingers that don't like Shapiro. Actually, that's one interesting thing about this new intellectual Dark Web, is Shapiro might be out of it. And here's why. During the public health emergency, Ben Shapiro suggested that you just get vaccinated, right? That's what got him kicked out. Right, that and well, I mean, I gotta say, there's probably some anti-Semitism involved in it too, right? If I were to pretend like there's no anti-Semitism involved in a lot of right-wingers not liking Ben Shapiro, I would be lying, right? That's definitely playing a role there as well, right? Being called a grifter is a bigger insult than a true believer. It means that he's doing it for money, not even just flawed ideological perspective, but he just wants the money. I thought that maybe Sargon fell out of relevancy after his campaign for MP fell. That's what it feels like to me, Spark, with that blood. But then again, I've never... Look, I covered Sargon once, okay? In a video a long time ago. I doubt any of you have ever seen it. I think it had a JoJo ending, too. I think it was like a two-parter where I wanted to watch the whole... I wanted to react to the whole Sargon thing, and it was really long. And so I had to put the JoJo music in the middle to make it look like it was, you know, the whole to be continued meme. Russell Brand already has more money than he could spend in a couple of lifetimes, and yet he's still willing to sell his soul. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, with Russell Brand, I feel like he believes a lot of conspiracies. I mean, the reason that people would call Russell Brand a grifter, though, is that he used to at least appear to be on the left. Newest Wikipedia entry for Sargon says on 20th of April 2023, he created a new YouTube channel called The Pondering. Okay. Largely apolitical and focused on popular culture and gaming. Well, I'm sure he finds a way to work some politics into it anyway. Russell Brand wants to be a cult leader, and it probably is. And yeah, he's into so many conspiracy theories, and that's really what gets you in the door for the new intellectual dark web, is believing in conspiracy theories, which is kind of funny, because like seeing how the old intellectual dark web like dressed itself up with facts and logic, right? Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Brett Weinstein, Eric Weinstein, people like that. That was the old intellectual dark web, and whereas the new one is more like, you know, they think it's based to believe in conspiracy theories. And I do believe I've got one more story for you today. I have to remind myself of what it was. Oh yeah, Pearl. I've covered Pearl like one time, and it was her debate with Ethan Klein. We're gonna have to make that too, because apparently she had an interaction with Piers Morgan, and it didn't go that well for her. I mean, she basically got exposed. She put out a song. I mean, so most of you have probably seen this by now, right? Pearl put out a song that she described as a love letter to one Nick Fuentes, right? And it's a song that she sings, and she leaves out one word, right? But it's a rhyming word, so we can kind of guess what the word is by context, right? And it's a word that rhymes with ooze, right? Like so yeah, it's pretty clear that, you know, she's being anti-Semitic in the song, but she won't come out and say it, and you know, kind of ingratiating herself to the Groypers, I guess, for relevancy. I don't know. Has she fallen off too? Piers Morgan has also. Oh yeah, Piers Morgan is a huge pile of human garbage, but he occasionally embarrasses bigger piles of garbage than himself, which is, yeah. It just so happens that way. Wait. I've got all these, like... Whatever, we'll do it live. We'll do it live. Yeah, we're not watching this. Remember, we already watched this. I mean, I guess I've got half of this to watch some other time if I really want to. This was a cursed conversation between Jordan Peterson and Bill Maher. I think the only thing that we really missed from this conversation was I think they talked about, like that women's version of violence was gossiping. So, yeah, more cancel culture shenanigans, no doubt. What am I looking for? I'm looking for this. Okay, so yeah, 1 year ago, Shapiro covered Hasan buying a new house. And then 2 days ago, Hasan put out a video, or Hasanabi Productions anyway, put out a video saying Ben Shapiro calls out Hasan. I think both of these videos are what we're talking about. This one goes into like a little bit of the backstory behind Ben Shapiro's Supervillain origin story. What was the other thing? The other time that Shapiro talked about Hasan, I think, was during the whole Hogwarts Legacy thing. I'm just trying to see if I'm missing anything, and I don't think I am. I think those are yeah, I think there's all of 2 times that Shapiro's ever talked about Hasan. You know, he probably just, like, he knows that Hasan tears him apart a lot, and he also knows that talking about Hasan would raise Hasan's profile. So that's probably what's behind that. But yeah, I guess this did make him mad. And what made him mad? It was actually Hasan going over the same thing that we watched, right? It looks like Hasan and Austin going over Ben Shapiro's review of the Barbie movie. And Hasan said something to the effect that Ben was a failed screenwriter. I think that's what made Ben mad. Anyway, let's get into it, because I've been edging you. Oh wait, I almost have been edging you long enough. You know what? I don't think I've quite edged you long enough, though. I think there's one more thing I need to edge you on. One more thing that I need to edge you on. And that is, for those of you still on X, which I guess I can't call it Twitter anymore. It's called X now. If you're still on X, there's an X thread. I don't know what we call these anymore. They're not tweets. Oh yeah, apparently they changed it to post, right? Apparently they changed it to post. Like, right, so if you go to tweet now, it doesn't say tweet, it says post. But if you want to, and if you can, give that a like, give that a retweet, hell, even give that a comment, right? I would be much appreciative, because there's this little thing called the Twitter jail, right? And it happens when you post a tweet, or I guess a post, since they're not tweets anymore. Oh my god, of course I got lipstick on my teeth. Of course, I always get lipstick. I always end up eating like 90% of my lipstick. Your app hasn't updated, that's kind of cool. Elon is being paid by fascists to use X as a way to suppress protests and... Oh, wait, being paid to what? To ruin the site? You're on... Wait, why did that get... Oh, because it's a web address, yeah. I think Catalina Gearbox said Blue Sky. To purposely ruin it. Some people think so. Yeah, I feel like I've heard other people say that too. Also, maybe he was getting bad press on it, right? Overall, right? When he did something ridiculous, he'd get called out. If he owns the site, he literally has boosted himself in the algorithm, right? So, like, he was unsatisfied with the amount of reach that he was getting, and he was like, I own the company, let's have a special algorithm just for me to make sure that everybody sees my tweets, especially those who don't want to see my tweets. So yeah, but if you could give me a little help on that by... Wait, where did I put... Okay, let's try this again. Boom. And then pen. It's penned. Manually unpen. Hide from yourself. Yes, that's what I like to do. I like to hide from myself. No, I... Huh. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, so I said I've been edging you enough. I gave you that tweet to like, right? One more thing though. Right? Because I can see in 4 minutes and 45 seconds, we got an ad break coming up. So I should probably tell you what's the deal with that. We have 2 ad breaks at the top of the hour and at the bottom of the hour. This time, I guess it's coming at the 45 and the 15. So it probably is a function of when I start streaming or something like that. Anyway, it's a 1 minute and 30-second ad break. It doesn't sound like much, but it does kind of take you out of your immersion. It makes for a lesser viewing experience on your part, right? So, you know, if you don't want to deal with that frustration, there's some ways that you can get out of that. One is if you have Amazon Prime, you can hook that up to Twitch. You can integrate that together. You get a free Amazon Prime sub to give to the streamer of your choice. If it's me, you get out of my ads, right? You know, so you don't see any ads in here. Another way is if you buy a sub for yourself, I think it's $5 on desktop, $6 I'm told on iPhone, we'll get you a sub, and that will get you out of it too. And the third way is, you know, if neither of these ways work for you, like, you know, right, I don't want you to feel, you know, put off or anything like that, because there is still a chance, okay? There's still a chance that you could get a gift sub just by being active in chat. Just by showing up there and people seeing, somebody seeing that you don't have an icon by your name and saying, geez, that person's going to be subject to the ad break, which is coming up in exactly 3 minutes and 23 seconds. And, you know, wanting to help out, right? So that could happen too, but it's more likely to happen if you're active in chat. So that is my advice as far as dealing with the ad break. So let's get into this. I've been edging you for probably more than long enough now. Let's see what Hasan has to say about Ben Shapiro's origin story.
Anyway, I find it really funny, but I also find this kind of sad. Ben Shapiro is upset at me.
Oh my god, thank you for the subscription to Zara. Thank you, the gift subscription to Vic Cryptid. Okay, so yeah, it's funny that he says, I find it kind of funny and I can find it kind of sad. Did he actually say that? Like, is he quoting Tears for Fears? Is Hasan Tears for Fears pilled? I want to know. Let's hear that again.
Anyway, I find it really funny, but I also find this kind of sad.
I find it really funny, but I find it kind of sad.
Ben
Sorry.
Shapiro is upset at me. After all of my many years of yelling at Ben Shapiro and Ben Shapiro only covering me whenever, like, the Hogwarts controversy happened or because I bought a house or whatever, I finally got...
Okay, wait, that's what I've got too. Yeah, does anybody know? Yeah, Mad World, right? It's Tears for Fears. Like, Tears for Fears is kind of trending. I know y'all don't want to see more skibbity toilets. We still have episodes 20 to 53 to watch sometime, right? But I didn't get a lot of good reaction from... I heard people say that me watching Skibbity Toilets got the Skibbity Toilet song stuck in their head, and now they can't get the Skibbity bop 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 yes yes. They can't get it out of their head, right? I probably reignited it for some people, right? So, you know, out of consideration to my audience, I will not play that for you right now, right? But if you get to some of the later episodes, you find out that the antidote to that Skibbity Bop song is actually the song Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. The speaker heads that are fighting the Skibbity Toilets, they use Tears for Fears to get, I guess, that song out of their head. So that's... Donnie Darko had a cool cover. Who did that song? Who did the cover? Still have that song in my head. Which one? Tears for Fears or Skibbity Bop Bop? You could play that. You could play Tears for Fears on guitar at some point. Oh no, you mean Mad World, right? One thing everyone needs to remember about Piers Morgan is that he platformed serial unalivers to feel like celebrities and interfered with in a way that his families think he destroyed their chance of getting a straight answer about what happened to their. So he's basically making money off of that.
Gotten Ben Shapiro to notice me and respond to me.
Ads will start in 30 seconds.
But in the
You
saddest
got 30 seconds to get yourself out of that ad break.
way possible,
Or else you will
implying or
you will experience it for real and see what it's all about.
at least proving to me that I've said way more shit to him throughout this time frame. This is the first time he's replied. It must have struck a chord because I didn't even add him. I said, I saw Barbie last night. I don't get what Ben Shapiro could be mad about other than the fact that he failed as a screenwriter and now everything offends him. To which he replied, I used small words for you, just for you though. I feel like I have broken him. This was done at 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. his time. Almost 24 hours later. So I'm going to say...
Like, his comeback was literally just like, I use small words for you, though, Hasan.
Do you not care if Ben hates or
Gary Jules and Michael Andrews were credited.
likes you? Wait, what? It's weird he's letting you live rent-free in his head in this housing market. That means he totally was watching streamer VOD? No, probably not. I need more people
Somebody sent him a link. That's what
to
happened.
know that his origin story being rejected from the good wife and his agent said it's because of your politics. Yeah. We can watch the video if you want.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about when I say the Ben Shapiro origin story. And it's not just Ben Shapiro, okay? This is true for so many people that are part of the Daily Wire. And I don't know why it is. They have done some kind of work in Hollywood. They have attempted to make a career in acting, right? Or in writing or something something involved in they've tried to be creatives. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't hack it. It didn't work out for them, right? And they've taken it really badly. And in Ben Shapiro's case, he literally thinks that he's a great screenwriter and that he got blacklisted for being conservative. No, Ben. No. Has anybody in here seen Ben Shapiro's writing? Has anybody in here heard of a book called True Allegiance, right? Ben Shapiro's done some writing other than his screenplay writing, right? Including True Allegiance, which is an amazing story. I don't know what like let me see if I can find like a snippet. Oh my god, Paul Squall, thanks for the 100 biddies. You might have failed chat. You might be a failed chatter, but you will never go to the Daily Wire. Yeah. See, that's the difference. Like, look, everybody's good at some things and maybe not so good at some other things, right? And that's fine. But when you blame it on they're blacklisting me because I'm a conservative. Look, if you got a good script, that nobody's gonna blacklist you because you're a conservative. If they can make money off your script, that's the whole thing, right? You show them a script, they like go in there, they process like, can I make money off of this? Could this be a thing? Is this, it's going to be a winner, or is this going to be a loser? And these are people who've looked at thousands of scripts, right? So, I mean, nobody knows for sure, but they have, of anybody who's going to be able to analyze something like that, they probably have a pretty good idea as far as my community is back. So yeah, if anybody got sucked into the ad break, you are now back. It wasn't great, really ham-fisted with the conservative message. Oh God, it wasn't that great. Listen, look, it is great for in an MST3K, like, right? If somebody could MST3K books, right? If somebody could like, react to bad literature in the same way that I react to bad videos often, right? I think that would be some good content right there. But as far as content in and of itself, no, you're exactly right. It is bad. It's not just like not good. It is unbelievable that anyone would finish a novel and say, there we go, I'm done, let's publish this, right? It's unbelievable that anybody would be like, oh no, this is how I want the story to be, right? True Allegiance is just on another scale as far as how bad it is. So
I was thinking we watched that video after, because this is a good time to watch that. Because that is like very real, and I think that does make him very upset. It seems. Do we have a screenshot? Does anyone have an easy screenshot for me to post right here of all of the fucking Daily Wire flops, Daily Wire gross movie sales? Because it's like really bad. I think it's like $700,000 total or something. Oh, here it is. I know why that's $800. By the way, it's still funny to make fun of him for it, but. It's because they didn't actually release it. They just did it one night. Tell the truth that you've called him small, feminine, a fascist that can't make his wife come, and this is the thing he responds to. Yeah, because this is the one thing that he's like legitimately upset about. Now it's time for the double ratio. There's gonna be a hate train your way, brother. I mean, it's fine. He's gonna talk shit about the source you use in your tweet. Yeah, I know why this is $800. The reason why is because they never actually released it in the theaters. They released it at one theater for friends and family. That's why it grossed $800. I know.
Okay, so yeah, we're talking about Gina Carano's movie, produced by the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire, yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, so I said Ben Shapiro, tried to be a screenwriter. Michael Knowles apparently tried to be an actor. Matt Walsh, I know he was on radio. I don't know if there was any other attempt by him to get into content of some kind. Oh my God, thank you, Catalina Gearbox. Or thank you, Anonymous Gifter, for giving that gift sub to Catalina Gearbox. What looks like next, the hype train is close. Really? Yeah, 1 minute and 30 seconds to start a hype train. If you want to start this stream off with a bang.
I looked into it. The other movies have also been failures, though. Overall, the Daily Wire has only brought in $700,000 total from 3 movies. Okay. It's, you see his new show kind of looks like a conservative ripoff of another show. Facts. Destroy.
Okay, so part of what Hasan tweeted about was the fact that the Gina Carano movie only made like $800. And yes, I do mean $800, not 800,000, right? And he said basically Ben Shapiro's going to come after the fact that they didn't really release that movie, right? That movie got released in one theater for like friends and family to see it. But the movie, yeah, the movie didn't really get released. But apart from that movie, the total amount of money that they've made at Daily Wire Studios, right? Which they want, like, don't get this wrong, like, they want to rival Hollywood. They want to take all the conservatives that are watching Hollywood movies and say, don't watch that, watch this, like, right? And change the, like, get them, make them become Daily Wire movie. Like, they want to produce like Hollywood style movies, but with a conservative mindset. So
nonsense coming to YouTube on the 29th of July.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Okay, so
he's
this
still
is
trying
like
oh my God, that's Johnny Harris. Oh my God, he stole Johnny Harris's flow. Bro,
so this is like a reboot of his show. He's got like a new, right? It's like still Ben Shapiro, but it's like a new format, trying to appeal to a younger audience.
Johnny Harris needs to sue him.
mean, this is just like all those like high production dudes like do this stuff. Like,
Oh my God. If I'm Johnny Harris, I'm losing my mind at this. Okay. That's actually fucked up. God, he's so fucking lame. He's like, this whole like, I'm destroying you with facts and logic shit fell out of favor so quickly. It fell out of favor so fucking quick because, especially because like, so much of the nonsense that they're advocating for is quite literally devoid of facts and absolutely dependent on their own personal feelings on the matter. So he probably demanded his editing team to steal it too. Yeah, people used to think Ben Shapiro was a genius back in 2014, 2015 until he posted more. Yeah, dude, the New York Times did a write-up of the IDW, if you remember. Barry Weiss is like, incredible article calling him an intellectual gladiator for the right. Anyway, the Daily Wire.
Yeah, I mean, like, people famously say that Ben Shapiro, his style, his manner of speaking is like a not smart person's version of what a smart person should sound like, right? That he, like, essentially he talks like he knows what he's talking about. And I'm sure you've seen this from certain streamers too, right? There are certain streamers that, you know, that they're good with the speaking thing. And they're good with sounding like they kind of authoritative about something, but when you get down to it, they don't know shit about shit, right? There's a lot of streamers, you know, I'm not gonna name names or anything like that, but that's kind of like a stereotype about streamers, right? Is that style will get you further than substance a lot of times. And you've got somebody like Sam Cedar who sometimes stumbles and fumbles over his words, but ultimately knows what he's talking about a lot more than like a Ben Shapiro.
Movie revenue was $300K. Yeah, I'm telling you, the total revenue that they've grossed for all of the Daily Wire productions totals around $701,000, I think. New TikTok Zoomer style is so sad to watch. You hate to see it. Yeah, even my fucking normie friends have been telling me, like, they find it really weird that Ben Shapiro, they find it real suspicious that Ben Shapiro's like hired a stylist and is like trying to be more appealing to...
I should hire a stylist.
Trying to be more appealing to Zoomers.
Any stylists out there?
And that's why he's wearing the denim jacket and stuff like that. The thing is, like this doesn't work if you're...
That's a new thing. I'm gonna get a denim jacket. I'm gonna have Subway Surfers going on the side of my stream at all times. We're gonna appeal to a new audience, chat. What do you think?
You're Ben Shapiro.
Skibbity toilets 24/7. We're going for that Zoomer audience.
You know what I mean? If you've built an entire career off of being... If you've built an entire career
You're an amateur stylist?
Of being like the suit-wearing guy online... and your entire personality is like wearing a suit and being really, really serious about things that are not supposed to be serious. If you're caught saying wet ass P word, for example, okay, you can't do actually a cool guy now. Like, I'm a cool guy that's appealing to the younger audiences. Like, you can't do that. Even I can't fucking do that. Okay. And I'm 32 and I haven't had the Ben Shapiro style. The target audience of Daily Wire, they gain a sizable audience in 2016 Gamergate millennials and need to dip into Zoomers to continue to grow. Yes. Every political commentator
you think I found an amazing stylist?
Is going through that same phase at the moment, myself included. Zoomers are not exactly interested unless it's like some esoteric Nazi shit or some like crunchy granola spiritual shit. Most Zoomers are just like, I don't give a fuck about this.
This is slander to Zoomers. I don't agree with this, okay? I don't agree with this.
Politics shit. This sucks. We all did
I mean, I kind of know what he's saying about like some stuff that's strangely popular on TikTok, but...
part. We threw up the black fist during the Black Lives Matter protests, and that never went anywhere, so I am no longer interested in this stuff. Does anyone have that antiquated video of Ben Shapiro talking about his failed screenwriting aspirations with that old lady on public access television? I found a Majority Report clip, but...
Okay, so... Oh. Okay. It looks like he had a shot at being a writer for The Good Wife. But they ultimately didn't want him, right? And if we can get into it, like, I'm gonna try to find some quotes from True Allegiance to kind of show you like how bad his writing can be.
I want to get the OG one because it's this clip, chatters. It's this is what we're looking for. But I want to watch the full one uninterrupted with Sam's uhs and pauses. Also, R.I.P. Michael Brooks. Oh, there it is. Ben Shapiro, primetime propaganda.
Well, like, he's saying that Zoomers, like, you know, weird. Like, and I don't know, when he says like esoteric Nazi shit, I don't know if he means like stuff that's like, you know, propaganda or stuff that's like, you know, like Hitler's secret occult past or so, you know, like, I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about there, right? It could be a number of things, but then like crunchy granola shit. Yeah. he's saying that Zoomers are into like horoscopes and you know, like new age stuff.
This is a very unique way to understand what Ben Shapiro's inception is and why he feels the things he feels.
Like, just because something's popular on TikTok doesn't mean that all Zoomers like it.
Specifically, resentment towards Hollywood. Because remember, Ben Shapiro grew up in California. No matter how much he tries to LARP his way out of that, he grew up in California. His father was a musician. He's a classically trained musician himself. And he always wanted to be a part of Hollywood. This is
and that's true for everybody in the Daily Wire.
His villain origin story. This is the book he wrote about Hollywood after Hollywood rejected his scripts. Reminder that Ben Shapiro's weird vendetta against Hollywood began when he was denied a writing job on The Good Wife.
Oh my God, I'm trying to keep up with everybody. Somebody said I had a good post from the Paradigm Shift. Yeah, I think the Paradigm Shift just stopped in really quick and wanted to say some nice words before leaving. But yeah, I appreciate you, Paradigm Shift. Johnny Harris, I guess, yeah, he's stealing his style a little bit from Johnny Harris. I haven't really watched much Johnny Harris, so I can't say. I'll just say that his intro seemed like all those, like, they're okay. So maybe, I don't know if chat knows about this, right? But there's a certain type of YouTuber that is like, they do YouTube about YouTube. Like, in other words, I'm going to teach you how to make better videos, how to edit your videos better, how to write your scripts better, how to do this better, how to do that better. Like, you know, they're all about like the, you know, the craft, the style of YouTube, right? And making your style as good as it can be, right? And, you know, I mean, like, you know, substance only goes so far. You know, style does make things easier to watch. Good editing, you know, makes things easier to watch, right? But the common factor behind all these YouTubers, if they're trying to sell you, like, I'm going to teach you style, they got to show some pretty impressive style. So their intros will be just like the intro that they showed Ben Shapiro using, right? And like I'm thinking like the Film Booth, right? Is like the kind of YouTuber I'm talking about, MetaTuber. I mean, it kind of sounds like, yeah, YouTube coaches. I don't know what to call them, but like they're just
Shapiro, an aspiring scriptwriter, said he has direct experience. He was close to getting in.
He's popular because everybody who's trying to make better YouTube videos will watch them.
The door with CBS The Good Wife, but then got a cold shoulder. He had
Ben is the best example of failing upward.
No idea why until his agent told him. Another agent at his firm Googled him and discovered his political leanings.
Hello, welcome to Connie Martinson Talks Books. You watch a TV show and you start laughing, but afterwards, do you think about what
Wait, is this on PBS?
maybe was said or what you've been really recommended to believe? My guest today, Ben Shapiro, has written Primetime Propaganda, the true Hollywood story of how
beautiful.
the left has made our country, took over your TV, and it's published by Harper. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks so much for having me.
And I guess one has to think about...
Wait, what is this? Is this PBS or is this like public access? What is this from? Does anybody know? Like, I feel like you said it earlier. Have they tried issuing a recall on the Shapiro line of dolls? Maybe see if someone accidentally flipped on his evil switch.
Things we've laughed at.
That's definitely a theory. A game theory.
But you seem to pinpoint the authors of those shows as being liberal Jews.
Well, not all of them. I mean, Susan Harris is not Jewish. There are plenty.
Nor is Gary Marshall.
Nor is Gary Marshall. I certainly don't say that all of them are Jewish. There's of course a lot of Jews in Hollywood, but that's because there are a lot of Jews at the top of any industry. Jews happen to be very hardworking.
No. It isn't just that. They have a point of view that can be considered comic and humorous.
That's true. I mean, there's a unique brand of Jewish humor, and that's been true since the beginning. I mean, go back to your show of shows. Everybody in that writer's room is a New York Jew.
This is like Gamergate era Shapiro.
And that's good. I mean, this is good stuff. This is not a rip on Jews. I mean, that'd be ridiculous. The point, and by the way,
But
one of the points I make.
I mean, like, here's the deal about Ben, right? He does rip on Jewish people, particularly Jewish people that don't subscribe to his brand of Judaism, right? He's Sam Cedar has commented on this before.
In the book.
Right off the jump, this is a contentious interview. Okay, right off the fucking rip, Connie Martinson's got fucking.
She's coming with the fire. Yeah, I like this. Wait, did he just scroll down? Let me see if we can see what this is from him scrolling down.
Okay, right off the fucking rip, Colleen
Oh, I can't see it. Connie Martinson. Okay, what is this from? What, like, because it feels like, I mean, not to knock on it or something, like C-SPAN. I guess it could be C-SPAN too.
Or sorry, Connie Martinson's got fucking. She got some words for Ben. Okay. She has got some words for Benny Boy from the jump.
Yeah, Sam Cedar called him the Pope of the Jews, like that he's the one to, you know, to pass judgment on, you know, who's you know, being I don't know. Yeah, gatekeeping, gatekeeping.
In hot. Okay?
Is that the people who write TV are incredibly talented. That they have a political agenda, but they're very talented.
Well, let me say, I've yet to know of too many conservatives, which is where you put yourself, who are funny. I mean, it has to do with a humor that is transferable.
Look, I mean, look, I okay, here's my thing. I'm sure there's some people that have made me laugh that are conservative, but I wouldn't know it because it's not what they're pushing. They're writing funny stuff, right? Whereas when somebody tries to be funny and conservative, it generally doesn't end well. That's my take on it. Conservatives aren't funny. I mean, I don't know. It's like like I don't know the ideology of every joke I've laughed at. And Wikipedia says she had a show on. Oh, this is public television. Okay, that makes sense. This does look like could be a public television production. Connie Martinson talks books. Well, she's like coming with the fire. Like, don't let her like PBS you know, pedigree fool you, right? She's not playing games with Ben Shapiro. Hey, what's up, Nabil?
To everyday living.
I mean, I utterly disagree with that. I think there can be conservatives who are funny. Liberals may not find them funny.
All right.
I mean, okay, Ann Coulter for conservatives is funny. Okay, for liberals, she's not funny. Bill Maher for liberals, hilarious. For conservatives.
I mean, this was a long time ago. Remember, chat, this was a long time ago.
Not funny.
Oh, look how things have changed.
Mike Nelson from MST3K is conservative. Wait, was he one of the guys that was like the guy on the show? Like, right, I'm trying to remember. There's Joel, right? And then there's Jonah's the new one. Was Mike one of the dudes that, like, you know, with the help of his robot friends, like, made fun of movies? Is that who we're talking about? Yeah, Bill Maher. We'll send him cheesy movies.
Okay,
well, that depends because you're using politics as the form of their humor. But
Bill Cosby is relatively conservative
today.
Oh. Yeah, and no, even back then. That's you know, the idea that conservative.
Joel Hodgson, Mike Nelson. Okay, that is the Mike that was on the show. Then Jonah is the new one. Mike Nelson was the second host, replacing. So Mike Nelson was actually kind of conservative. That's funny. Like, okay, God, like, I don't know. Like, look, I haven't watched the most MST3K, but I do have friends that are very into it, right? So I have seen it, and I'm kind of like learning. I'm in the learning stage. Bill Cosby was his example of a conservative who's funny. But the thing is, when Bill Cosby was funny, he wasn't making conservative jokes, right? When Bill Cosby's jokes were like, pull your pants up, like, that wasn't funny. But when Bill Cosby's jokes were like, I went to the dentist and he anesthetized my mouth and then I talked weird, right? That's funny, but there's not really a political agenda to that joke.
Conservatism is inherently unfunny. Is not true. It's that conservatives have abandoned the playing field of humor and narrative. I'll agree with you there. I think that they've totally run away from the battle. But that doesn't mean that there's not the capacity within conservatives.
I don't know if he's a post-Trump conservative.
No, conservatism, I think, is inherently not funny. It's not. Because there's really nothing funny about, like, humor is supposed to point out the ridiculousness of our existence, but it's inherently degenerate. And if you're a conservative, your job is to basically go back to prior.
Oh, if you did like the Cosby Show today, yeah, people would see it as conservatives would see it as identity politics.
Norms, like you fear change. Now, I think in modern day, a lot of liberals have gotten a very conservative attitude towards humor, which has kind of bastardized the realm of comedy a little bit. Conservatives are funny unintentionally. They're not funny deliberately. Conservatives are fucking hilarious. They're even funnier than liberals. And liberals can be funny as well, but conservatives are extra funny. But just they're not when they're trying to be funny.
Conservative thought to be funny.
You talk about having conceived of the plot for a TV series and worked with Lenny Goldberg.
I mean, there's something to be said for, you know, the SNL sketches that like go after Trump. They sort of fell into a rut. Like, right, they got like unfunny from sort of recycling the same joke over and over and over again. And maybe in some ways, like, here's the thing, like, is Trump funny? Yeah, right? He's a ridiculous ass clown. But it's not funny when you're somebody that's under Trump's crosshairs, right? And I think that there's probably a little disconnect between SNL and people that are under the Trumpian crosshairs, right? So there's another, you know, place that they fall down. There's other people too, right? There's like I can't think of their names, but like late night show hosts that are, you know, kind of fall into the same ruts.
Was that a comedy? Was it sitcom? Was it drama?
It was more of a dramedy. It was based on Harvard Law School. It was a drama.
It was a dramedy. Oh my God! Wait. Why does that sound wrong? Is that like an antiquated phrase or something? A dramedy?
But just they're not when they're trying to be
It sounds so 90s.
funny.
It was a dromedar.
Would have thought to be funny.
A dromedary.
Talk about
even.
having conceived of the plot for a TV series and worked with Lenny Goldberg. Was that a comedy? Was it sitcom? Was it drama?
It was more of a dramedy. It was based on Harvard Law School. It was a dramedy. I've written a couple comedies, kind of hour-long dramedy.
I think it's dramatic comedy, right? That's what I would call it. Ben just seems to want to be involved in media because he sees it as some kind of battle for the collective soul. And that's also like a Jordan Peterson thing. It's like those souls you think you're saving don't belong to you, Ben.
For spec script.
And have they been bought?
No, because and there are a couple reasons for that. One is that it's hard to sell anything in this town.
Yeah, thank you.
Period. Regardless of political viewpoint. And the other is that and especially a breakout series right from the get-go. Right. I mean, it's hard to sell a spec script. You start as a baby writer. I mean, you know the process.
Yeah. Have you worked?
But see, this is the origin story for Ben. Oh my God. People hate it when Hasan gets up to pee. Like, I've been watching, like, on X right now, right? That's what people are, the Hasan haters are talking about. He gets up to pee and he leaves the video going.
Continually with Lenny Goldberg since?
Yeah, I worked with him for several months afterward, and then he got sidetracked with Unknown and with Blue Bloods on CBS and all of that. Like everything else in Hollywood, things go into development, and then they kind of get sidetracked. They go sideways for a while. So.
Well, do you think the book will help sort of open the door with him again?
That wasn't the point of the book, but he knew what was going on with the book. It was not a hit job on Leonard Goldberg. I treat him very well in the book. In fact, most of the people in the book I treat very well for the most part. I talk about how talented and brilliant they are. I talk about how great their shows are, which they are, and that's not a bad thing. I just point out that, look, I'm a legal realist. I'm a lawyer. I went to Harvard Law School. And in law, the idea, there's an idea that was promulgated by the left in the 1960s called legal realism. What it was is the idea that your politics are going to come out in your interpretation of law. That is the same thing that's true in art. Okay, your politics are going to come out in your creation and interpretation of art. And that's one of the...
What always comes out in my interpretation of the art is the top of the hour ad break, which is coming, I guess we'll call this the top of the hour, which is coming at you in exactly 4 minutes, I'm sorry. 4 minutes and 11 and 10 seconds now, right? We got another advertisement break. If you don't want to be part of that advertisement break, if you don't want to have to watch that, if you don't want to get taken away from, because we're going to get into True Allegiance in a second, and if you haven't checked it out yet, it is legitimately funny. The way that Hasan was talking about conservatives being funny unintentionally, that's exactly what it is. Like he tries to jam like an ideological point of view into his book, and it ends up just being like hilarious, right? And that on top of that, he's just a bad writer. So like, right, if I was to guess why Ben Shapiro did not get a job in a writing room, it's because they looked at what he writes and they said it's no good. It's not funny, it's not interesting, it's not a good story. You're not a good writer, Ben, right? It's not because you're conservative. It's because we can't make money with your product. Yeah, that's right. Top of the hour ad break. Getting back to that, right? in which case you'll have to use either a Twitch Prime sub. If you have Amazon Prime, you can get a free Twitch sub out of that just by hooking up Amazon Prime into your Twitch. Use it on the streamer of your choice. If that's me, you get out of the ads with me. Another way is to spend $5 to get out of it, and the third way is not quite as reliable, right? You're rolling the dice here. You're really rolling the dice, and you know the house always wins, and the house is Twitch. So, you know, most likely if you're trying to get out of this ad break, it won't necessarily work. But if you're active in chat, it's more likely that somebody that might be giving away gift subs. We've had a few of those happen during this stream. They might give you one too, right? So those are the ways that you deal with the existential angst that comes with the incoming ad break, which is coming at you in about 2 minutes and 17 seconds now.
The points of the book. The people who I'm talking to are not bad people. A lot of them are not. Some of them are not even doing it purposefully. Some of them are doing it purposefully, but it's coming out in their work. And the one thing above all that Hollywood does right now that is utterly despicable is that they keep people who are not of their political ilk out of the business. Period. End of story.
Okay, so he's alleging like I'm trying to choose my words carefully, right? Because I don't want to reinforce any of the almost like, you know, anti-Semitic stuff that he said earlier, right? But like it's like a small group of people that are like, right, but by this I mean liberals, right? He's saying Hollywood is liberal. Anytime they hire somebody, they're gonna do like an ideological check on them. If there's anything at all that smells conservative, that smells right wing, they're gonna blacklist that person. And I just don't think it's true. They want to make money as much as anybody else does, right? They're in a business to make money. They're in a business to, you know, get Emmys and Oscars and prestige, and you know that's what they're doing, right? If somebody comes to them with a fire script, they're gonna take that fire script most of the time.
I have them on tape admitting that.
And if there is any sort of discrimination that goes on, it's the same kind of discrimination that you see elsewhere in like society, right? It's a discrimination along racial lines. It's discrimination, you know, like based on you know, like the way that people say women can't be funny, right? That's, you know, one example of, you know, of a reason you might lose a job that you deserve to get. So there is discrimination that goes on, but it's not ideological. It's just literally the same kind of bias that creeps into everything else.
Yes, I have high-ranking members of you know, the WGA. I have high-ranking members of the caucus.
Hasan P stuff is similar to your ad warning?
For producers, writers, and directors.
Really?
I have high-ranking members of the DGA. I have people talking about this openly and recognizing that it occurs.
Or is my ad warning similar to the Hasan P-ing? No, wait, my ad warning is similar to the Hasan ad warning, right?
A little hard to believe because...
Well, look at the tape.
Well, I'd like to see the tape, only because my husband, who's a conservative, was a very famous director at a certain point.
No, like, look, Ryu, if you wanted to see me like imitate the Hasan like getting up to pee thing, like, and I hope you didn't think I was complaining about that. I'm just relaying what Hasan haters on Twitter are talking about right now, right? I don't mind Hasan getting up to pee. If anything, it gives me a chance to watch the video.
And I just try and think.
But if I was really going to do something similar to the Hasan peeing thing, it'd be like this.
Being Democrat or Republican or whatever very rarely came into the conversation.
Well, I mean...
Although I will say we were cleared by the FBI.
Well, I mean, I think that it comes into the conversation mainly in terms of... if it's made part of the conversation, it becomes a problem. There is no... Every major conservative that I know of, and I know, you know, virtually all of them in Hollywood at this point, none of them started off as conservative when they got into the business. Or at least they weren't openly conservative.
The key factor being the empty chair.
Or they're still not socially conservative.
Unsubscribed.
Do me a favor. Define for me what is a liberal.
Okay, a liberal is someone...
No, they're saying that he's stealing people's content. Like, right, he's reacting, and it's the same old react harder. It's like they'll you know, say that, like, I mean, like, there was one video, I think, where he went up to pee and it took him a while, and like almost the whole video went on without Hasan reacting. This person, of course, made a big deal about it, and you had what was this? It's called Chairgate. You're just playing. You get Hasan not pausing the videos is ridiculous. Well, yeah, he'll literally die if he doesn't pause the video, or if he pauses the video. So.
Who believes on social policy, believes in...
I mean, unalive.
Believe in pro-choice. They're pro-gay marriage.
No, I'm not. I'm not salty, everybody. I'm just teasing.
They believe in big government with regard to growth of government on domestic policy side. They believe the government should be used to redistribute wealth and rectify.
So this is what liberals believe, according to Ben Shapiro.
The inequalities of everyday life.
JXE, yeah. That, JXE, who like I feel like the Vosh network absolutely echoed JXE's complaints, which is weird because like Vosh kind of does the same thing. I mean, look, maybe there's less pee breaks, maybe there's less eating on stream. Vosh does what, like a 4-hour stream? Demon Mama usually does like a 5-hour stream. Xander Hall will do a 3-hour stream, right? They'll do shorter streams, whereas Hasan's streams are like 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, right? It could be anything, right? So yeah, it's kind of understandable that Hasan's going to be peeing a bit more than Vosh.
On foreign policy.
JXE is part of EFAP, which I find hilarious that it's called EFAP. I mean, I'm sure they did that on purpose. But yeah, it's got Mahler, it's got what is his name? Sitch? Yeah, it's just basically like a right-wing version of Sad Milk or something. Oh my god.
For the most part.
Wait, if it's a right-wing version of Sad Milk, then who's the Illuminati?
We should attempt to solve things through diplomacy, not only as a first measure, but as a last measure. And if we cannot agree on a diplomatic means of solving the problem, we should hardly ever commit the military. So I think that's a relatively basic
conservative
summation.
is
A conservative.
He sounds like he's on fast forward. That's part of what makes him sound smart, right? That's people associate fast speaking with intelligence.
Would be almost the opposite, right? With regard to abortion and gay marriage, anti-abortion, anti-gay marriage, much more.
Your kitten was typing. My kitten was typing too. My kitten like destroyed my stream setup, and I had to reset it up.
More for the acting out of traditional religious values in everyday life. With regard to government.
Dude, this is really funny to me. I think. I mean, he's just describing qualities that you would consider hilarious. You know what I mean? Like overall, just really funny aspects of. I mean, he's really making a good argument as to why conservatives are fucking laugh out loud hilarious.
Government, much smaller government that does not interfere in the economic market per se, much more laissez-faire.
How do you feel about overpopulation?
I don't think that overpopulation is a problem.
She climbed across the keyboard of your iPad.
Oh, okay. The other is.
I think bad government's a problem. I don't think overpopulation is a problem.
Around the world.
Around the world.
Okay. There are those who will disagree. The other is.
I mean, I wonder what his takes are on this stuff now, because this is like 11 years.
Yeah, he is right. We don't have a problem with like a lack of food or lack of resources. We have a problem with the lack of distribution of those resources.
He's not wrong about the overpopulation.
I mean, technically, he's right. It's not a problem of. I mean, I'm not sure what he means when he says it's a problem of bad government, not bad, not overpopulation, right? But like. Just in the substance of what he said, I agree, right? It's the distribution of those resources rather than the there being too few resources for the people that exist. People think talking fast makes you sound smart. Interesting. I mean, to a point, I think.
I do know.
We have a private property problem. Yeah, Zara, we have an enclosure problem, right? Like, I mean, I hate to use the Vosh metaphor, but, we landed on an island where somebody else has already claimed all the coconuts.
Talked with some of the ultra-conservative that they are very concerned, as you said, about anti-abortion, but they don't care about schooling. Where the government would come in, there is definitely no action.
I mean, they seem to be kind of separate issues to me. I mean, you can be for the not killing of fetuses or babies, depending, and
Oops, caught myself. Oh, I mean, I'm supposed to call them babies. That's right. I forgot. They can't say fetuses.
Also be for less government intervention in education. We're spending a ton of money on education.
Wait, dramedies, yeah.
Our education has been consistently worse every year for the last 50. So the correlation between government...
He's actually correct that overpopulation is not a problem. Keeping resources from the poor. Exactly, Johnny Bravo. Exactly.
And spending and better levels of education is completely misplaced.
Well, I was thinking in terms of the free food lunch for kids who don't have food at home. Anyhow, let's get back to television and...
Wait, did he say fetus and then correct himself again? Or did he say fetus and then correct himself to say baby?
Misplaced.
Well, I was thinking in terms of
education and all issues. I think bad government's a problem in everyday life. With much more for on foreign policy for the most part.
No, seriously, chat. Like as far as making fun of me or criticizing me have at it. You're not going to get like a fragile reaction to me, like, right, especially about something as funny as the ad break that I have to announce.
Feel about overpopulation.
That is one of the funny things about the stream.
The other is
I think bad government's a problem. I don't think
In
overpopulation.
fact, if you even want to give like a rating on my like ad break warning, right? That's, you know, how well do I integrate it into the stream? How well did you not see it coming, right?
Population's a problem.
That's what I'm going for, is like you'll never see it coming.
around the world.
Kind of
Around the
vibe.
world.
Okay. There are those who will disagree.
Yeah, what is more big government than police?
The other is, I do know having.
Well, look, he doesn't consider it big government when it's enforcing private property. That's the difference. And he'll never see like the corporate compulsion, you know, to work under the terms that are available in you know the jobs that are available. He'll never see that as being coercive.
Talked with some of the ultra conservative. They don't care about schooling. Where the government would come in, there is definitely
You never see it.
no action.
I mean, they seem to be kind of separate issues to me. I mean, you can be for the not killing of fetuses and
Not killing of fetuses
or babies, you know,
or babies.
and also be for less government intervention in education. We're spending a ton of money on education. Our education has been consistently worse every year for the last 50. So the correlation between government spending and better levels of education is completely misplaced.
Well, I was thinking in terms of the free food lunch for kids who don't have food at home.
Ben Shapiro, I think, like, so this was long enough ago. Somebody said it was Gamergate era. You can tell that Shapiro's a lot younger here. I'm pretty comfortable saying that the educational system that Ben's actually talking about has a lot to do with the No Child Left Behind policies under George W. Bush, right? The predominant policy, you know, that had been, you know, this would have been like during the Obama administration, right? So like, I mean, Obama may have changed some things up in education, but what the U.S. had been dealing with for 8 years was a set of tests imposed on schools and money being either spent on those schools or withdrawn from those schools based on the students' performance on the test, causing the teachers to take time out of their curriculum and literally teach to the test in order for the school to survive.
Anyhow, let's get back to television and people such as All in the Family. What bad came out of that? What instincts were given to the population that made them lose their sense of values?
Well, I mean, I think that when you look at All in the Family, the chief thing that came out of All in the Family that was problematic, in my view, is the portrayal of conservatives. Archie Bunker is not a conservative.
But this was
Archie
the
Bunker
British,
is a bigot.
You know, the show did not originate
That's
in
right.
America.
It was
It's
based on
from
until
Okay, so yeah, we're talking about All in the Family, a show produced by Norman Lear. I've never seen a single episode of the show, but I'm familiar with it as like a pop culture reference. Archie Bunker was the dad in the show, and he was just like uncomfortable slash racist slash sexist to everybody in the show. But the thing about it was, and so, something that Norman Lear gets criticized for, is that I think the intention was for people to look at somebody that represented the out and out racism, out and out sexism, which had been largely rejected by the culture at large. Now, this doesn't mean that racism goes away. This doesn't mean that sexism goes away or homophobia or anything else, right? It just means that it gets expressed in a different way. It's harder to detect. It gets swept under the rug, right? But it's still very much there. But Archie Bunker was, you know, an expression of, you know, somebody saying the quiet part out loud. And it's not a good look in the 1970 whatever, whenever that show was made, right? So what happened though with the show is that people like Archie Bunker, like people that still had, you know, those thoughts in the back of their mind, he became like a hero to them. And there's a series of television shows where the same failure took place. They write a character intending for the audience to hate that character, intending for that character to represent, this is the person saying the wrong stuff, right? You're supposed to laugh at them. You're supposed to ridicule them. You're supposed to be like, I am glad I'm not like Archie Bunker. Some of the people were saying, oh yeah, Archie's really telling it like it is, right? So that's kind of a failure there by, in terms of what Norman Lear intended to write, and in terms of how it got received by the public. Family Ties is another example of that. Like the kid in Family Ties, Michael J. Fox's character, was supposed to be, you're supposed to hate him. Like, right? You're supposed to hate his guts. But the people that watched the show ended up hating the liberal parent, because of the idea of Family Ties is like, what if some liberal parents had a conservative son and he's like rebelling and stuff, but his rebellion is like, yo, I think Reagan is pretty cool. Like that's the, like, it was like a, and they thought that how that was going to get taken is like, oh my God, what a piece of shit kid. What an absolute piece of shit kid. But instead they were like, oh my God, these liberal parents are, yeah. So Cartman, Uncle Ruckus, Walter White. Yeah, Walter White. People loved, people saw themselves in Walter White rather than seeing Walter White as, and you're not supposed to get right away that Walter White is a bad dude. It's supposed to take you like through watching the show, but by the end of the show, you realize that Walter White is like legitimately like, evil, right? And harming the people that he's trying to help, etc., right? But it's supposed to, the show's supposed to take you from admiring Walter White to disliking Walter White, and some people never got there, right? Some people just hated Skylar.
To us part,
Patrick Bateman, there's another example.
which
Yeah,
is a British show, and it was adopted by Norman Lear and brought over here. Yeah, that's correct.
And it still had the same premise over there.
Yes and no. Okay, it had a very class-based premise in Britain. It was all about upper.
It gets harder to detect because also people are not educated on the new forms. Yeah, if you try to educate people on the new forms of racism, of how racism actually manifests in this day and age, of how racism, hides inside of people who don't regard themselves as being racist, then you'll get accused of teaching CRT.
Class versus lower class, like most class-based comedy is in Britain. It was about elites versus people at the lower level. This was not that, right? I mean, if you look at Archie Bunker is a lower middle class guy who's living in a small town.
Nobody sees themselves in Uncle Ruckus either.
House. He's blue collar worker, and this was Norman Lear's picture of.
I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. You lost me.
What a conservative looked like. A conservative looked like a hard hat, lower class guy who's ignorant.
Oh my God! So there was this thing that went on during the '60s, right? And people like Nixon got a lot of mileage off of portraying young people in a certain way, right? In a way that was designed to turn off not the working class, right? Because when you say working class, you're saying working people. They mean the white working class, right? With the same thing in the Hillary Clinton campaign, like, right? The Hillary Clinton versus Barack Obama, primary campaign, right? They bandied about this term working class, but ineffably they meant the white working class, right? They're cutting out a lot of the working class when they're saying that, and erasing those people, and and also giving racism an excuse of like, oh, it's not really racism, it's just lack of education. Oh, it's not really racism, it's just working class culture, or something like that, or like, right? It's
about the world around him and his big.
Yeah, except at the time, that is not how. First of all, that is not how fucking back then conservatives were seen and perceived. He's talking about like a Nixon.
They kind of were, though. They kind of were, and here's why they were, right? Nixon was able to turn part of the working class against young people, and I mainly mean like Vietnam War protesters, right? Hippies, right? They were able to and this went on like it's a wet they were able to use, I guess, the counterculture as a wedge issue to keep the working class on the left from combining forces with the new Democrat, the new left, right, as it were, right, hippies, yippies, Vietnam War protesters, kids, basically, right? If you can engender like a hatred because of their like long hair and their clothes and the music that they listen to, then you can keep these groups from seeing like a common cause. And if you conversely, if you can make like the kids think that working class people are more conservative than they actually are, then they're not going to want to lock elbows with them either, right? Yeah, it's kind of a tragedy.
Era change.
Driver from Taxi Driver is another person cishet men idealize, but is literally horrific.
The notion that like hard hat wearing guys that are blue collar are actually like Republican Party voters portrayed against like the anti-war hippies is a relatively newer phenomena. And at the time, the like a lot of the hard hat wearing motherfuckers were voting for the Democratic Party. A lot of the hard hat wearing dudes were there's more than that at work too. You also have the Southern strategy. You also have the Republicans using civil rights, and especially like by the 70s, it wasn't about civil rights because it wasn't cool to be against civil rights. If you were anti-black, you were against busing, right? Which is an attempt to actually integrate the school districts through putting schools together, not necessarily by the by the area of town that they're in, the people, the place where the people live, but trying to create school districts which are more integrated, right? So the blue collar types were not necessarily always conservative. They were definitely.
They're not necessarily conservative today either, right? There is like a correlation between income and politics, and it is actually like you're making less income, you're more likely to vote for Democrats rather than Republicans.
Like the way that conservatives were perceived, back then was the what's the guy that debated Gore?
There's also an extension of the Southern strategy that took place in the southwest of California, which led to the destruction of many BIPOC neighborhoods, and then the building of highways to physically segregate the city. Yeah, you see this a lot where, there's even like, parts of towns that are mostly white will fight against public transit in their area, which you would think would be like a plus. Like you're going to get public transit, and they're thinking, no, we're going to get people from the not so white area in our like white area.
Vidal, William F. Buckley, like incredibly elitist, incredibly openly elitist, wealthy, defending the interests of the wealthy. Like they were all seen as like elite society guys.
Bigoted across the board.
I think that's really too big a generalization for Norman Lear to think that. He came from a family in Boston that was not that well-to-do himself. So
why are you talking about this? The show's not about that. I mean, I haven't seen the show. I'm just talking about, but the time frame that the show existed on. I don't know anything about Norman Lear. I don't know about Archie Bunker. So I don't know what that is.
He was seeing the humor of the man struggling at that point. Again, you talk about MASH, Vietnam. We were in Vietnam, and not very few people spoke Vietnamese.
Yeah, the whole point of like, okay, I haven't watched very much Archie Bunker, of All in the Family. I don't think I've ever seen the show. Like I've seen clips from the show, but I've never seen the show. Right? But like the Family Guy in the beginning, where Lois and Peter are playing the piano, that is a reference to the theme song from All in the Family. And the idea is this: imagine you've got this dad, and you can't. Anytime you try to bring your boyfriend, girlfriend home and introduce, like, if you're bringing, like, if you're dating somebody that's black, he's going to be racist to them. If you're bringing home, a woman to introduce to him. He's going to be sexist, right? He's kind of like the conservative dad from hell. The mom is very sort of submissive and very much, just kind of, does whatever the dad, wants her to. And the kids, I think, are, are the kids are kind of suffering from having this this dad that's just like you can't take him anywhere. You cannot take him anywhere. For black people, no one sees oh yes, the Uncle Ruckus thing.
And it was a war that didn't really come out right.
Well, we can
Some people in chat can relate to this.
we can argue the politics of Vietnam, but the point of the book is that there was a clear political position being taken by the folks who were talking about Vietnam on TV. Right? What Hollywood has always lied about is the idea that they are market-based actors, that they are completely and
No, Ben, that was the zeitgeist. That was the zeitgeist, okay? Like, yeah, were there people who still supported the thought that we could have won in Vietnam if we had just given, if we just sent more soldiers, if we just kept soldiers there longer, we could have won, we could have beat the commies, right? Those people, the war got sold on a false flag, right? There was an attack in the Gulf of Tonkin, which was basically faked in order to get the U.S. into the war after the French stopped fighting. And the U.S. became an active participant in the war. The president of South Vietnam was a puppet of the United States government, right? We were trying to impose a type of government on Vietnam that Vietnam didn't want. Most people, after a certain amount of time, realize this, right? You send oh my god, what is his name? Old school journalist. What is his freaking name? Oh my god, he's got a mustache. I can see him in my head. Right? Oh my god, somebody name off some old school journalists. Does anybody know who I'm talking about? Cronkite, yeah. Walter Cronkite, is he goes to Vietnam, reports on it, and at some point, Walter Cronkite starts saying, this is a war that's unwinnable. The people here do not want the kind of government that we're trying to impose on them, right? And I think it was Johnson, I think it was Lyndon B. Johnson, that said, well, if we've lost Cronkite, we've lost America, right? It was in the zeitgeist. It wasn't just like a political thing of some people think the Vietnam War is a good idea and will stave off the spread of communism, and some people think it's about people realized by the 70s. And they forgot. They've forgotten already. You do have, right now, unironically, you've got a bigger contingent that sees the Vietnam War as serving some positive purpose than you did, in the 70s. People actually, caught on to this, right? The Vietnam War was unpopular. Representing it as if it's just there's one political point of view and then there's another. No, the reason that the media the media leaned one way is because it was in the zeitgeist, right? People were realizing that this was a bad war. I mean, there were a lot of it was because of the amount of deaths that the United States suffered, right? Some of it wasn't even for good reasons, for altruistic reasons. It's just the harm that it's causing to the soldiers that were sent over there was part of the reason some people got off
solely concerned with the dollar. This is the excuse that they always go.
I love that Ben has been advocating against the material realities from the jump. No, they were always fucking market-based actors, dude. What the fuck? What are you talking about? I mean, there's no better example of this than what I dunked on him for, which is that your content is mid. It fucking sucks. There are certainly, conservative art and conservative creators of art, or even straight up Republican creators of art. But ultimately, Hollywood in and of itself has a lot of conservative aspects to it. But there's a reason why your movies are not gangbusters and a blockbuster sales that are just crushing Hollywood. If it was so simple.
Yeah, and that's literally what you want to do. That's literally what the Daily Wire set out to do. They want to rival Hollywood. They are nowhere close, right? Hasan talked before about the video that grossed $800. That's maybe not the best example because, like he said, that movie wasn't put out to a wide audience. But all in all, with all the movies they put out, the Daily Wire has the gross, their total gross looks like something in the range of like $700,000, which might sound like a lot of money, but it's not. It's not even. It wouldn't even be a lot of money for one movie, let alone for how many movies they've put out. But yeah, they want to. This made Ben Shapiro angry. So Hasan says it was your comeback after 20 hours. Okay, so Ben Shapiro, like Hasan saying that Ben Shapiro hates the Barbie movie because he's a failed screenwriter and he's still bitter, right? That seems to be true. That seems like he writes this book of exposing Hollywood after he can't get a job in there and saying that you can't work as a conservative. They're blacklisting all the conservatives, right? And then, you know, Hasan kind of exposes this and Ben's response is, I use small words just for you. Okay, nice comeback. But yeah, the Daily Wire's cinematic division not doing too well. Even something like Angel Studios, which just produced the QAnon movie, right? They're making a lot more money in that one movie, I think, than like Daily Wire has made for like all their movies. So yeah, not exactly a successful enterprise, even by conservative media standards, which
then your inherently conservative movies would do really well.
Your favorite channel for happiness? I'm glad I can bring some happiness into your life. Speaking of happiness, we got a top of the hour, bottom of the hour ad break. I don't know. It's the 3/4 of an hour ad break. Let's just call it that. It is coming up. You will be sucked into that. You will be subject to that. You will miss the true allegiance that I'm about to go over. Ben Shapiro's weird and terrible book that shows you what kind of gives you a little glimpse into what kind of a screenwriter Ben Shapiro might have been, some of the reasons that Hollywood was not interested in hiring him, which is the origin story of him as a villain, right? But you're gonna miss that, right? Because in a minute we've got an ad break coming up. Now there's some things you could do to remedy this. I'm not giving you as much time as I normally do, as I would want to do, but yeah, if you have an Amazon Prime, you can hook it up to your Twitch. You can get out of the ad break that way. If you've got $5 to spend, you can pay for a sub for my channel, and you can get out of the ad break that way. And if none of those things work for you, my best advice is to just be visible in chat. Keep chatting. Contribute to the chat. Be active in chat, because then you might just be lucky enough to get a gift sub. They do happen from time to time, and you might get one. You're more likely to get one, though, if you're showing up in chat more often and contributing positively. Now, speaking of contributing positively, let's take a look at, I think this is Jose, actually. I was going to give you the Chapo version of this, but looks like
this video is sponsored by
Jose has covered
this
this
is not
too.
a good book. Do not buy or read it. And now with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get started. The first thing that a person sees when opening up this book is a terrific cell phone. The very first page includes praise for the book, including this quote from Salon: "Meet our new Ayn Rand." Of course, the full quote actually reads, "Meet our new Ayn Rand. Ben Shapiro's ham-fisted propaganda fiction is even worse than you."
Yo, this is how bad the book was. He had to literally clip Salon's review of him out of context to make essentially an insult look like a, I mean, and even meet our new Ayn Rand, right? Ayn Rand, if you don't know, was also a bad author. Whatever you think about her philosophy, which I'm leaving out for now, right? Obviously, you can guess what I think about Ayn Rand's philosophy, but just as a writer of fiction, she's terrible. She's hard to get through. She's overly wordy. She is, like, I don't know. There's so many things wrong with Ayn Rand as a writer. So that's not even a compliment. But I guess to somebody who really likes Ayn Rand's philosophy, maybe they take it that way.
Guessed. But it's actually even worse than that. Even though the book calls it Praise for True Allegiance, this article was published in 2015, a year before True Allegiance was released. The author was actually taking a shot at Ben Shapiro's short story collection.
Oh, no, this wasn't even about, yo, he put that on his book as a blurb. Do you know what I'm talking about? The blurbs, like if you take a book, you turn it over, you read the back of it, right? It'll give you a synopsis of the book, but then it'll also say at the bottom, it'll be like stunning and amazing. It's a revelation by, it'll attribute it to some reviewer, right? They'll take the best reviews they've got and they'll put them on the back of the book as blurbs to make you want to read them. Oh, this outlet said that this book was one of the best of 2023, right? I want to read this book now, right? This is Ben Shapiro had to use like reviews that weren't of his current book, that were of his the older book, right? And they weren't positive. He had to clip them out of context to make them look positive.
Titled What's Fair, that was published digitally that year. The rest of the accolades come from conservative fixtures.
Also, look at the font for True Allegiance.
And a few creative types. Here's a brief sample. It's prophetic. Just a little too real for comfort. Is it really fictional? Yes to that last one. That's how novels work. But to address the other comments, the opening pages of this book are trying very hard to convince us that this book describes a plausible depiction of the real world. I want you to think about that as we go through its plot. This is a tough book to read, particularly in public. You have to hold it in just such a way that no one can tell you're reading a book by Ben Shapiro. The actual prose is a lot easier to grasp. The novel is split into 3 parts, with chapters divided amongst 5 central characters, although Ben breaks this rule, drifting to other characters all the time. The main character is Brett Hawthorne. And yes, I do need to say it like that. Brett Hawthorne is the youngest general in US history at 41. He spends most of this novel murdering terrorists and getting angry at those damn liberals who would rather send them winter coats. Our next major character is President Mark Prescott. He's a president obsessed with how he's perceived in the media, and he's trying to appease the American population by bringing the troops back home and going massively into debt to China to pay for work programs. He's generally a cowardly guy. He's also a thinly veiled.
This actually does make the Ayn Rand thing seem pretty on point, right? The Ayn Rand would have characters like that. If you've ever looked at like somebody like Ellsworth Toohey from The Fountainhead, this is like, the kind of character that she'd write.
Combination of Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Our next major character is Ellen Hawthorne, Brett's wife. Ellen does something working for the governor of Texas. I think she's an aide for him. It's really hard to tell because she goes from photographing dead children at the border to leading the National Guard, and then she's suddenly like a proxy for the governor. I really don't know what her specific title is. She just does whatever the plot needs her to do. Next, we've got Soledad Ramirez. She runs a ranch that falls on hard times when the
and this like it's almost striking like J.K. Rowling like type naming of, you know what I mean? It like almost feels like, that like
EPA shuts down access to a river to protect a threatened species. It prevents her from watering her cattle and destroys her ranch, so she resorts to terrorism. This is an obvious nod to the Cliven Bundy story of a few years back when ranchers took over a government building because he wanted to keep using land stolen from the government. Our last character is, brace yourself for this one, Levon Williams, a drug dealer from Detroit who hustles his way into a civil rights movement that's a stand-in for Black Lives Matter. If there's one character who will just drive you up a wall with the naked racism of it, it's Levon. So look forward to that. And so there we have our principal cast, 3 protagonists and 2 antagonists. The book opens with a prologue that takes us into the story in media res.
It's kind of like, oops, all stereotypes.
It's a scene from further along in the story where the George Washington Bridge is collapsing after a terrorist bombing.
Oh God,
leaving that aside
the way that the dialogue that Ben puts in the mouth of his black characters is particularly cringe.
Now, let's go to the first
Yeah,
chapter where Brett Hawthorne is stationed in Afghanistan, which is quickly falling into the hands of the Taliban after the feckless left-wing President Prescott...
Quick, somebody get Sanderhall. Get Sanderhall. They're trying to withdraw from Afghanistan. Get Sanderhall.
...decided to pull out the majority of the troops. As Kabul crumbles around him, we learn about Brett's backstory. We find out he has a friend named Derek who taught him how to get out of scraps using his wits instead of fighting. Fun fact about the rest of this book, every scrap Brett gets into, he escapes by beating up or murdering the other person. We don't hear from his buddy Derek, who the book is quick to tell us is his black friend, until much later on when we find out he grew up to become a plot device. Brett and Ellen have a special way of saying goodbye to one another. Take a bullet for you, babe. I shuddered every time I had to read that. Back in the United States, we
Wait,
meet...
so that's like how they hang up the, when they're like, all right, thanks, okay, take a bullet for you, babe. Like,
President Prescott. He's recently come up with a new governmental program called the Work Freedom Program to get Americans working again.
yeah, they should have just sent Xanderhal over to Afghanistan to, take care of the Taliban.
Fun fact that I'm sure is
he would've
just a
done that.
coincidence. One of the campaign slogans the Nazis used in the 1930s was work, freedom, and bread. The phrase comes up from a 19th century German novel, Arbeit macht frei, where criminals attained freedom through work. It was also the phrase emblazoned on the gates to concentration camps. I think Ben is trying to suggest something here by having the president create a work freedom program. As Prescott delivers his speech, we meet Soledad, who has decided to take the impending doom of her ranch into her own hands when she hires someone to bomb a US federal building. The woman who bombed an office belonging to the US government is a hero, but the Taliban soldiers who bombed the US embassy in Kabul 2 chapters ago are villains. It's strange to see a book use such frightening morality that justifies actions on the basis of the one performing them, but here we are. Soledad, captive in her ranch, is surrounded by law enforcement who would easily arrest this 150-something-year-old lady, except that there are dozens of biker ranchers surrounding them, ready to die for Soledad. I guess they're ready to just go to war with the cops. Okay. Next we go to Detroit to meet Levon, who's got a fancy crack operation because Ben's knowledge of black culture is from movies from the 1970s and 80s. Levon meets Jim Crawford, a civil rights leader who takes Levon under his wing after Levon poorly quotes Hamlet. Jim responds, "Quoting dead honkies, you might be useful yet." Ben thinks that's what black people talk like.
Look, that's Private Slanderhall reporting for duty.
Then, in the same chapter, we cut away to a new character, Officer Ricky O'Sullivan, who is
Officer Ricky O'Sullivan, really?
confronted by a young boy named Kendrick.
Like, this really does sound like it was written by Chapo Trap House as like a parody of something that a conservative would write, rather than actually being written by a conservative and then made fun of by Chapo. But instead of the Chapo version, you're getting the Jose version.
Alone late at night. Apparently, this boy was just wandering around the streets of Detroit in the middle of the night. I can't describe the madness of this scene, so let me just read some of it. As a bit of
So much hoggery, Shakespeare.
context, O'Sullivan thinks Kendrick has a gun concealed in his pants, but at this point he
Please
can't
just read
see
the
it.
text.
"Fuck you, honky,"
Oh, there we go.
the kid
Thank
shot
you.
back. "Get the fuck out of my neighborhood." Then he laughed, a cute kid's laugh. O'Sullivan looked for sympathy behind those eyes. Found
This is like Hillary Clinton super predator shit.
none. "Oh shit," O'Sullivan thought. Then he said, "Hands up, right now." It goes on like this for a little while, but later in the scene, "You go home, white boy," said the kid. His hand moved lower. Suddenly, O'Sullivan's head filled with a sudden clarity. His brain
What was his name again? Darby O'Sullivan? Like, this is like...
with a preternatural energy. He recognized the feel of the adrenaline hitting. He wasn't going to get shot on the corner of Iowa and Van Dyke outside a shitty convenience store in a shitty town by some 8-year-old, bleed out in the gutter of some city the world left behind. He had a life too. The gun felt alive in his hand. The gun was life.
Ricky O'Sullivan.
Yeah, that's right. The
8-year-old kid. Yeah, that's how he's writing
kid
this.
is 8. As you might have guessed, this ends with the cop
Oh,
murdering the
no.
child. And after he realizes he just shot a child who was holding a toy gun, not a real one, we get this line. When he looked up, he saw them coming. Dozens of them. The citizens of Detroit coming out of the darkness, congregating. He could feel their eyes. Soledad's chapter also ended with people surrounding law enforcement.
This is like he's like trying to he's making them zombies. He's making them there's so much dehumanization. Now look, this is political, right? This is me having a problem with the politics of his book, but trust me, there's plenty of stuff in the book that is just poorly written. Like regardless of political, sensibilities or whatever. It's just, it's incredibly racist. Yeah, well, I mean, that is one feature of it. It's incredibly racist. It's incredibly poorly written. He is really self-reporting in this, all over this book, right? You can kind of see, though, like, if somebody now, I don't know what kind of scripts Ben was bringing to the people that he was trying to get jobs with, right? But if it's anything like this, I can kind of see why they might have said, we don't need your script. Thank you. Thanks for coming in, Ben.
But in that case, it was the heroic biker ranchers surrounding the cruel cops who were trying to arrest this harmless woman who bombed a government building. In this chapter, it's a bunch of scary black people surrounding this innocent cop whose only crime was murdering an 8-year-old. I would almost think that this symmetry was intentional. I'm not sure Ben is that clever, unless he was trying to expose his ridiculous bias here. This is Ben's way of showing us who the good people are and who the bad people are. It underscores what I mentioned earlier.
I'm not sure if Jose's going to get to this part, but I remember in one reading of it that the kid was wearing not a Bart... Oh, yeah, here's part of it. Okay, so here's an example of his bad writing, because I don't know if Jose is going to get to this or not, but like, he mentions that the kid has a Bart Simpson t-shirt on, right? And I mean, this is, it just seems a little out of place in the, like, both in terms of like the year it was when this is written, and in terms of like what a kid that age would be wearing, right? And so it's a Bart Simpson t-shirt at first, but check this out. Later, he mentions the t-shirt again, and it's a Homer Simpson t-shirt. Right? He can't... He knew it was one of the Simpsons. Anyway.
Earlier, their actions aren't material. It's their identity that will inform who we should consider a protagonist and who we should consider an antagonist. And next, we finally meet Brett's wife, Ellen. The chapter we meet her in is boring, but it establishes that she works for Governor...
Also, a lot of people say that Brett's a stand-in for Ben Shapiro.
Bubba Davis of Texas. And
last time Ben was among normal people, kids were wearing t-shirts, Simpsons t-shirts, and he hasn't left his bunker since.
And that there are drug dealers arriving in Texas by helicopter, and they murder one of Ellen's friends. And this plot point doesn't have any lasting ramifications aside from letting us know that the border is soft and under threat by Mexican... I mean... drug dealers, right? It's drug dealers who are coming across the border, sure. Ben is cramming a lot of topics into this story. I'd say way too many for 266 pages, but who am I to disagree with the cool kids philosopher? Back in Afghanistan, Brett Hawthorne finds out that the US has been betrayed by the US ambassador to Afghanistan. Apparently this guy was a big donor to the Prescott campaign, and he was rewarded with becoming...
He also describes him in a very homoerotic way.
Ambassador to Afghanistan? Honestly, that sounds more like a punishment than anything else. Maybe this is why he betrayed America. We never really get an answer to the question of why he betrayed America. The plot point is pretty much dropped after this revelation. It's a brief scene where Brett opens the ambassador's briefcase, finding a map with 2 sets of coordinates, one set in Iran and one set in Iraq. And from there, he somehow figures out the ambassador sold Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction to Iran. I'm not sure how figured this one out. He just kind of did. Ben also helpfully rewrote history by giving Saddam Hussein nuclear weapons he never had. I don't know why he couldn't just pretend it was chemical weapons.
Oh my god, no. Like, look, famously, George W. Bush, Colin Powell, like, stood in front of the UN holding, like, a vial of, I think it was yellow cake uranium, and he was saying, like, just this much uranium is enough to, like, do this much damage, right? So, in other words, we gotta stop Hassan. No, we gotta stop Saddam. And we got to do it because Saddam he's got the yellow cake uranium and he's going to do bad things to U.S. cities with that stuff, right? Not only did he not have nuclear, right? He didn't have anything. He didn't have any chemical. He didn't have. We gotta stop Hasan. No, that was last segment. Now we're on to we're fully on Ben Shapiro here. It wasn't like cake mix. Maybe it literally was yellow cake mix. Cakeless Saddam. Yeah, exactly. Right. So there was no nuclear, and there was no chemical, and there was no biological, because the Bush administration promised that stuff was there. That was part of the reason, the justification given for the invasion of Iraq, right? First, it was that Iraq had something to do with 9/11. They didn't. There was no tie there. There was no, right? It was if any country could have been held culpable, it would have been Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is our allies at the time, and so they don't want to invade Saudi Arabia. They want to invade Iraq. Why do they want to invade Iraq? Because George Bush's dad invaded Iraq and then stopped the war pretty quickly, right? As soon as the objective of getting Iraq out of Kuwait was achieved, the war ended, right? And George W. Bush felt like that was the reason his daddy did not win re-election. So this was personal. This was like a personal, beef to quote unquote finish what his father started, right? In Iraq. And he was just looking for a justification. So, when he can't tie him to bin Laden, then the next thing that he tries to do is say that the guy's got weapons of mass destruction, have Colin Powell go out and lie to the UN. And famously, right, they looked everywhere and they could not find the weapons of mass destruction. So yeah, no, Saddam did not have shit.
Ever found, but Saddam had nukes in this story. Whatever. After that, Brett gets captured.
Well, Hassan Hussein would be the weapons would be taking a pee break or something.
By some terrorists. Governor Bubba Davis gets a lengthy introduction.
No, his weapon is the chair. His weapon is the empty chair.
Out that the governor was once a big player in the oil industry, and then he ran for office when he found out the Environmental Protection Agency was threatening the production of oil. It's amazing how a rich oil tycoon running for office to protect his own business is presented as some kind of hero in this book. It seems like there's a problem with the system if a rich person can afford to run for office when their money is at threat. Here's a passage from the book describing Bubba's campaign. In his opening campaign speech, he named the 3 top environmental officers in the state and read off how much they'd received from lobbyists from the environmentalists, and how much those environmental groups received from global competitors like the Saudi government. Why would Saudi Arabia, which makes its money off of oil, want to finance people protesting against oil? Or are these environmentalists specifically against American oil? Typically, they argue for green energy and getting off oil entirely. It doesn't make sense. Even when Ben is writing fiction, his conspiracy theories don't seem believable. Also, this scene of an angry Bubba reminded me of something. "Well, go fuck yourself then," he sputtered, slamming the phone down on his carefully crafted maple desk. He looked up. "Oh, hey Ellen, glad you're back."
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not.
Wait.
Oh, hi, Mark.
I feel like I've seen this. What is this movie? What is this movie? I feel like I've seen this.
Mark?
Back with Soledad, she's eventually spirited away from her ranch by Aiden Foster, formerly
It's The Room?
in law enforcement. Aiden just couldn't stomach being on that side anymore. And oh god, here we go.
Wait, that brings back memories. Wait, I'm trying. Yeah, because look, I'm not trying to talk about my ex, but I talk about them way too much. But I had an ex that really liked movies and always wanted to watch movies, and so a lot of the movies I've seen were with this one person, and that is definitely a movie that they showed me. But I remember it being was it bad? I don't remember, there was something about that maybe the character was just hard to take or something.
Go back in Levon's story, we find out that the recently murdered 8-year-old Kendrick was actually sent there by Levon and Jim so they could manufacture a story about the cops shooting a kid. Yeah, that's really
they sent him. Let's send our 8-year-old. Get in there. Get in there, kid. Well, first put your Simpsons t-shirt on. Here, look, it's reversible. This side is Bart, this side is Homer. Yes.
How it happened. Ben has given us the most ghoulish black activists I've seen in a book in a very long time. A large group of, as the book puts it, mostly young black men start protesting. Levon, who is apparently a master of manipulating the media, tricks them into covering the story from the angle that the shooting of an 8-year-old kid is wrong. I'm not sure you need to trick the media into believing that a child getting shot by a cop is a bad thing.
You need to trick the media out of their racism of seeing an 8-year-old black kid as some kind of threat. Like, somehow exaggerating his size, exaggerating his age. Like, this has been studied. This happens, right? This is like, and then they start on with the "he was no angel" narrative. You find a picture of him like taking a picture and trying to look tough, and like, see, looks like a gangbanger. Like, this is what this is just classic, like, post like, death demonization of a victim of racism.
This novel frames it. Ben introduces a new character who gets a focal point chapter just for this one time only. He's a terrorist from the Middle East, and you better believe his name is Muhammad.
Yes! Oh my god! Yes! I'm sorry.
In Muhammad's story, we also meet Ibrahim Ashami, a bin Laden-like figure who, in spite of being a Salafist terrorist, is somehow being supported by Iran. Considering how much ISIS and Iran are at odds with one another, this is a stretch. It's supposed to be showing readers that theocratic Muslims will put aside their differences when it comes to fighting against America. This feeds into a broader paranoia about Muslims, that they will one day create a universal alliance and start attacking the West. It's a grotesque
caricature. This is like the caliphate conspiracy, the neo-caliphate conspiracy theory, right?
Of Muslims and Islam in general. And it's also exactly what Osama bin Laden was trying to do on 9/11. By having the US respond violently in the Middle East, he was hoping all Muslims would unite together and team up to fight America. And 18 years...
So in other words, what George Bush, did in response was kind of playing into that strategy.
Years later, it's pretty obvious that he failed. We also get this line, where Muhammad is sitting in a cafe in Tehran and getting very frustrated. He was getting sick of listening to the Western-style sinful music blasting over the speakers. What, he asked himself, does it mean to hit me, baby, one more time? So I guess in Iran, music is over 20 years out of date. And pretty neat that they, I guess, can play American music right there in public. Muhammad picks up...
How old is Ben Shapiro, though? Like, this feels like it's written by maybe a much older author than actual Ben Shapiro, right? It feels like even by this time, it's like 20 years old by this time, that song, right? And all of its reference, The Simpsons, like all these references are like coming from the 90s. Like it feels like how old is Ben Shapiro again? Shapiro wrote, this is Shapiro's book. That's
Banuk from a Russian.
Ben Shapiro's, he's 39. Okay, I mean, it's a little bit more believable
guy, which is weird because I thought it was the American ambassador to
I'm used to like a lot of these like right-wingers being like younger than they look.
Afghanistan, who was hooking them up with Saddam Hussein's nukes. Unless this ambassador was also working for Russia. It's never really explained because Russia's involvement and the ambassador, all this stuff is just sort of forgotten about. Brett is in the hands of Ashami, and we get a terrible comeback line when Brett, after hearing America get talked down to by Ashami, says, "We live for something. We live to kill bastards like you." Most of Brett's lines read like this one. While captive, Brett sees a landmark through an open window and somehow figures out not only is
they captured Brett
he in Tehran, but that he must be at the same coordinates on the map he found in the briefcase. I don't know how
he does kind of talk like a boomer, and which is even more funny considering that he's trying to give himself like a makeover. He's trying to like both change the way that his show looks and the way that he himself looks to capture like a much younger audience.
Puts that one together. Brett is filmed in a hostage video, and he sends a message back to America by blinking in Morse code. This was first done in 1966 by Jeremiah Denton when he spelled out torture while describing his captivity in Vietnam. Ben even describes it in this book. While Denton only blinked out torture, Brett manages to blink out airstrike now, 514231 356961. Somehow the terrorists don't notice one of the most famous examples of an American sending a secret message back home, or that he's blinking really weirdly for 3 minutes.
Ben Shapiro heard that story once, and he was like, I gotta include that in my novel. He felt like that was a really good plot element. Right-wingness adds 10 years to your appearance.
Also, those
apparently.
coordinates are in the middle of Tehran, so to kill a Shami, Brett is gasking the president to launch
like Charlie Kirk looks a lot older than he actually is.
an airstrike on the capital city of Iran. This would start a war killing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, but in Brett's mind, that's worth it to get one terrorist. Because Prescott isn't...
Yeah, I don't get the strategic... Also, like, they don't, like, oh my god. I don't know. Anyway, he's a bad writer.
a complete maniac,
gonna
he
analyze
decides
it.
to send in a special forces team
I'm not going to analyze the military strategies here.
instead. Except he waited 4 days, letting a Shami slip through their fingers. And Brett apparently didn't need that team to save him anyway, because even though he's got a broken
He
arm,
freed himself because he's an American hero. I prefer people who don't get captured.
and he's been awake for 2 days straight,
Or at
he-
least people who escape from their imprisonment. As a centrist, I agree with the right-wing perspective and actually fight against the left-wing one because I'm unbiased.
is able to murder both of his guards and escape. And on the way out, he saves the team that had come to rescue him, because the building has been set up to explode, and he just sort of hauls them out of there. I'm not sure why the building exploded,
Meow.
or why there were only 2 guards, though.
Ben never enlisted. Yeah, I'm surprised.
The terrorists can't afford recruits, but they can afford extra bombs for all their buildings. Brett knows Muhammad is heading to America for another attack. He doesn't tell the president because he thinks he's a giant wimp. So he decides to solve this problem alone.
He used some of his spare freedom he had in his soldier pockets.
In the wake of all these events, we finally get the bombing of the George Washington Bridge from way back in the prologue. Back in Texas, Governor Davis is using the National Guard to patrol the border, which is, from the book's
baked.
perspective, working really nicely by turning the southern part of Texas into a police state. It's a bit frightening how often this book talks about how nice it is to have armed military personnel everywhere. Since the president hates America, he's annoyed by safety at the border. But Bubba doesn't care. He's just a Texas badass.
Bubba doesn't care.
Loves his characters. In Detroit, Levon is unveiling his master plan to get the city to bow to the will of his angry black man mob so he can start making reforms to the police system. He wants an all-black police force, and this apparently means they'll have to have lower education standards and allow in more criminals. Gee, I wonder what Ben is saying about the black community here. We're getting a character
Sorry for the weirdness, but that happens to the best
of
of
a
us.
civil rights leader in the making, and it's being used to make a broader point about the black community. It's not the legacy of
Yeah, this is Ben Shapiro's racist novel.
racism that's held them back, but the evil people who take advantage of the community's rage and loose moral character. They seem like a violent and angry community, easily led astray by the worst members inside of it. Unless you doubt his expertise, Ben has intimate knowledge of the black community. Remember this line from earlier on? Quoting Dead Honkies, "You might be useful yet." Thanks to a Republican district attorney, the officer who shot the child won't be charged, and people are getting angrier. Back in the US, Brett is trying to track down Muhammad, and we get a cringy scene where Ben Shapiro reveals he doesn't understand what racial profiling is. In this scene, a Port Authority security guy is refusing to help Brett racial profile records of people entering the US. "Look," Brett burst out, losing his patience. "I don't give a rat's ass at this point whether it's racial profiling or not. Maybe you're right. Maybe Muhammad is a light-skinned Norwegian woman or a Cherokee elder. Or maybe he's a Persian or Arabic-looking son of a bitch who hangs out with other Persian or Arabic-looking sons of bitches who look like Ibrahim Ashami. If I end up being wrong and he looks like Helen Mirren, feel free to tell the New York Times editorial board about
I get it, because they're liberal. Barry Weiss. Somebody tell Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss would have been working right at this time for the New York Times. Tell Barry Weiss that she's liberal.
it. At this point in the story, Brett has a physical description of Muhammad. In an earlier scene, he describes him. He's about 5'9", 140, skinny, maybe 17 years old. Blue eyes, angular face, sharp, big nose. So if he knows he's looking for an Arabic guy, and has such a specific description, How is that racial profiling? Racial profiling is questioning people on the basis of their race, not targeting a specific person whose ethnicity you know, and who you have reason to believe will commit a crime. Maybe Brett is worried about a fake name, but looking up an Arabic man that he has already seen makes perfect sense. It's the difference between stopping someone on the street because they look like someone who is trying to commit a crime, and stopping someone on the street because they belong to a certain ethnic group that you just happen to believe commits crimes. You have a crime which you have evidence is going to occur versus an imagined crime that you think might occur because that racial group is always responsible for crimes. You see the difference now? Ben, I suspect, doesn't. We also finally get to hear from Brett's best friend, Derek. Remember him? Well, he's not just your token good black guy, he's also your token Muslim, because he goes by Hasan Abdul. And what makes him a good Muslim, you ask? Well, he infiltrates mosques and informs on other Muslims to the government. His role in this book is to hand off some information to Brett and then get murdered because he's just a plot device, not a character. Bubba Davis sends Ellen to parley with the president as Prescott demands the National Guard be taken from the border to help the cleanup in New York City after the bridge was bombed. On Soledad's side of things, we find out that her new right-hand man, Aiden, is childhood friends with Ricky O'Sullivan, the cop who shot the 8-year-old black child. So now the threads are coming together as Soledad's team decides to head to Detroit to rescue Ricky. Their plan is kind of weird. They're going to have the biker ranchers drive into the middle of the angry mob, which has congregated outside the prison Ricky is currently staying in.
Somebody called Destiny. He's going to love this plot.
The biker ranchers will start a fight, and as things turn violent, they'll sneak Ricky out in the confusion. While this is going on, Levon
Destiny's gonna
as Jim, his civil rights mentor,
the biker ranchers
murdered, leaving Levon in control of the movement. Remember Ashami, the terrorist who's apparently the mastermind behind all these attacks? You might as well forget about him, because we found a new Muslim leader who will be the focus for the rest of this book. Muhammad and his nuke have hooked up with an imam named Omari, who runs a major mosque in the US. Omari has close ties to the president because, of course, the left-wing president is unknowingly friends with a terrorist. The president is bending to all of Levon's
And again,
requests.
this is during the Obama administration. Jose said before that the president seems to be like a combination of like Clinton and Obama.
Like letting him influence the police department, not just in Detroit, but eventually in cities across the US. And now I'm just going to skip ahead to the end of Levon's story here, because from this point on, nothing really happens. He becomes more powerful and he gets everything he wants, because the president is afraid of being called a racist. I'll have more to say about Levon later on. Soledad is finding more people deserting her terrorist cell, and soon the only ones left are her, Aiden, and Officer Ricky. The last biker to leave them is a guy named Ezekiel, who Ben helpfully lets us know is black. And this guy betrays them. He's secretly been working with the US government, and he gives a scarf with a tracking device implanted on it to Soledad. It's also strange that he's the only biker whose race is explicitly mentioned. Just a detail I noticed. Soledad gives that bugged scarf to Aiden, and it's in his hands when the president, the feckless coward who would have tea with a terrorist, decides to order a drone strike on American soil. Personally, I think it would be easier to just arrest 3 people who are driving around on motorcycles, but I guess the drone is...
okay.
I don't know.
As you might have guessed,
Since Aiden is the one holding the tracking device, the operation is botched, and it's Aiden who's killed when Soledad was...
So, yeah, we gotta, I hate to have to cut it short here, but I am dealing with like some limited time today. So let's watch this Kavarnacle video. Like I said before, this is Kavarnacle talking about Dave Rubin mainly. Dave Rubin has been getting really excited at this brand new intellectual dark web. It's kind of different than the old one. Like I said before, the old intellectual dark web, it was all centered around like atheists, new atheists that are in the absence of a new earth creationist movement to fight. They're targeting feminists, right? They're targeting the left, right? They're saying that's the real area of irrationality that we should strike against next, right? This is very different than the new intellectual dark web, which is almost exclusively conspiracy theorists, right? So kind of, and it shows you kind of where people like Dave Rubin have been drifting.
The political stuff. But some of you that have been watching me for a long time, you remember the phrase, I have not
There
said
he
it in a
is.
couple
Did you
years,
miss him?
the intellectual dark web. This was
Chat, did you miss Dave Rubin?
a group of people, sort of when I was kind of getting popular way back when I was one of the first sort of
Back when I was getting popular. Wait, when were you popular?
outside of mainstream people, building a studio in my garage, sitting down.
Oh, he believes the conspiracy theory about the National Islamic Center in Washington D.C. Yeah, I remember this controversy. It was just like they're a mosque at a community. It was like a mosque at a community center, but like the right wing saw like all kinds of. Wait, wait, no, maybe I'm thinking of one from New York.
With people across the
It seems a bit fuzzy. My best guess is that Kavarnacle is taking a lot more care not to get copyright claimed than I am. So maybe I should learn something from Kavarnacle.
political divide, whether they were Sam Harris on the left or Ben Shapiro on the right, just talking it out, having debates about God and having debates about the role of government, all of these things. The thing kind of blew up. This was obviously related to Joe Rogan as well, and a whole bunch of people. But it was the point of it was we were going to defend free speech, and we were going to try to get over some of the right versus left insanity. I sense it's reforming. It's retaking shape.
Hello everyone, once again from the Tory hellhole of the United Kingdom, and today we are talking about something we all thought was dead, but now it's come back. It's the intellectual dark web 2.0. Now, any YouTuber who's been around as long as I have, that sounds weird to say now, but I did start my channel at the start of 2018, you have covered someone from the intellectual dark web. And if you're on the left, you've obviously criticized them. So what was the intellectual dark web? It was basically a collection of people viewed as intellectuals from across like various different political backgrounds. I wouldn't say the political spectrum.
So yeah, like Barry Weiss, Brett Weinstein, Eric Weinstein, I'm trying to remember, Jordan Peterson, of course, the huge Sam Harris. Yeah. I think, yeah, did he say this already? This is a collection of Nazi boomers, kind of, right? This was the original. This is Intellectual Dark Web 1.0. What was Joe Rogan? Oh, that does look like Joe Rogan, yeah. Yeah, it's funny that they put him there, because he's not exactly what most people would think of as an intellectual, but...
Because there wasn't really any real leftists there, but you had Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson.
He's like calling Sam Harris, at the left of the, and maybe Brett Weinstein too, right? Would be somebody he'd consider left.
Weinstein. You had Dave Rubin, who we're going to talk about a lot today, and of course you had people like Sam Harris, but this no longer exists anymore. Like, these people do not...
Who's number 2?
Collaborate as much. They've kind of like segmented off. And of course, Jordan Peterson now works for Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire, but Sam Harris is basically like...
And what is Dave Rubin with Glenn Beck's The Blaze now?
Ran off. He doesn't even use Twitter anymore. And he's sort of the main critic of his stuff. And what the old intellectual dark web used to unite around was
like a bloated Charlie
the
Sheen.
attack on free speech from the so-called illiberal left. And we'd shut down Jordan Peterson for basically saying making him use pronouns is like Stalin's gulags.
And honestly, to these people, shutting somebody down is akin to criticizing them.
Shut down Mara Yiannopoulos speaking at a college campus. We try and cancel.
Number 2 is Eric Weinstein.
All these people, and we wouldn't talk about things seriously. We wouldn't talk about Islam seriously, and that's what united a lot of these people. They absolutely hated Muslims, and they hated Islam.
And that's the kind of atheist that like Sam Harris. So like right before he's referring to Sam Harris as being like the left, coming from the left, we got Sam Harris. Sam Harris is not on the left, right? He is a new atheist, and for a long time that meant that he's kind of fighting the evangelical right wing in the United States, right? when that becomes less prominent, particularly on YouTube, so in other words, when there's less content that they can make making fun of like the Venom Fang X's of the world, right? The New Earth creationists, they turn to, like I said, feminists, but they also turn to, like, he's like, okay, so you know how we hate religion, right? Right? Okay. Well, some religions maybe are worse than others, right? And by which he meant Islam. So then it becomes this thing of, instead of just being against religion and the irrationality, or particularly like, or like hardline religions, right? It becomes a fight against, like, primarily Islam, and justification for some of the atrocities committed in Iraq.
Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, pretty much all these people were united by this fact. But then we also had people who I guess weren't intellectuals, but kind of brought these people together, and that was Joe Rogan as well. Because Joe Rogan had
I mean, the only intellectual exercise Joe Rogan really did was like listening to these people talk and like nodding his head along with them.
All these people featured on, often together. So he was like the hub of the old intellectual dark web. But as you all know, in American politics now, fear-mongering about Islam isn't really relevant these days. And even last week, I covered in my video, a lot of Republicans now feel like Muslims in the US can actually be helpful in getting their agenda passed because they view Islam as...
They are making a push. Yeah, that's true. They are making a push to, and like the way that this is working is this, because like they absolutely were the people who would have been pushing that, like Sam Harris, right? Like, I mean, Sam Harris isn't really considered part of the intellectual dark web anymore, right? But a lot of people had that mindset that, including like religion. This is something that like the Sam Harrises of the world and the evangelical Christians of the world would agree on, is that Islam is really, really bad. Like right, if you're a conservative in the 2000 aughts, right, you are very much against Islam. And whereas this intellectual dark web 2.0, the new conservative sees a potential ally in the more conservative aspects of Islam, and wants to kind of do as much as they can to distance themselves. And this is a classic Republican trick, right? When the Tea Party came out, they were like, we're not the Republicans that took us into Iraq, the Republicans that caused us to spend more than 10 years in the war on terror, expending like all these resources, right, etc. We're not with them. We're not them. We're other Republicans, right? And they weren't. They were the same people that supported George W. Bush. They were the same people that voted for George W. Bush. The same people that called like John Kerry, like turned, his Vietnam experience into like a liability for him. They are absolutely the same people, right? But in this new attempt to court the fundamentalist, right-wing, like Islamic constituency, they're trying to distance themselves from that, right? And it's bullshit. It's bullshit. They're the same people that backed the war on terror and that demonized Muslims, right? But now they're saying, hey, we got something in common, right? We're both against the gays, to the more right-wing contingent of Muslims, and trying to get them on their side.
So the intellectual dark web 2.0 has some of the same members, but a lot of new ones. And what are they all united by now? They're basically just all united by all being anti-vaxxers to some degree. And that is pretty much the main thing that unifies these people. Yeah, if you actually listen to a lot of them, they pretty much do say the same stuff. But instead of the leftist attack on free speech and Islam, it's now COVID vaccines. And of course, that's where we're at with the so-called intellectual...
So you've still got the, like, idea of the authoritarian left, right, that they're making a lot of hay off of. But now, instead of the authoritarian left being authoritarian because they criticized Jordan Peterson, you've got, they're authoritarian now because they're pro-vaccine.
dark web. Some people have been cast out. Ben Shapiro doesn't seem to be in this anymore. Sam Harris would never have anything to do with this. It's part of the reason he distanced himself from all these people, which we're going to talk about later, is because they just became Trumpist, anti-vax grifters. And for all his faults, Sam Harris has never supported Donald Trump and is pro-science in some ways, apart from when he's platforming Charles Murray and saying the bell curve actually has some merits. So today what I wanted to do...
So yeah, this is Charles Murray is kind of like an OG race realist, basically.
...is just look at the intellectual dark web 2.0 and contrast it with the downfall of the original intellectual dark web. So before we go any further, please like the video. Please let me know, who do you think the worst original intellectual dark web grifter was? Maybe Jordan Peterson, and it's just funny to see his downfall because he like has no respectability anymore because he's absolutely unhinged these days. But let me know down in the comments. Also follow me on social media at the Kavarnacle, on Twitter, on Threads, on Instagram, on Blue Sky. Also consider becoming a patron. I'm trying to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible. Benefits include access to the Discord server, access to exclusive content I've posted already, and access to my Nintendo Switch friend code. And also check out my second channel and my subreddit. The links to all of these things down in the description. So we're going to talk about the original intellectual dark web if you're kind of confused like what this really was. But I hope I've given you like a brief outline in the intro. But let's get into what inspired this video. So Dave Rubin put out this tweet, and he also put out a video on Rumble, not on YouTube.
That's why I couldn't find it. That's why I couldn't find it. Okay, yeah, because I was trying to find the original Dave Rubin video that this comes from, and it's, yeah, like Kavarnacle's saying, absolutely not on YouTube.
Because I think it's about vaccines and stuff. But anyway, let's talk about this. So Dave Rubin tweets the other day, seems there is a new intellectual dark web brewing in the fight to save America
Ice Cube
from the machine. So think about who's left off the list.
Who's Rusty Rockets again?
And think of the new people. So we have Tucker Carlson. We have Jordan Peterson, a returning member of the original intellectual dark web. We have Bill Maher, who of course was kind of in that crowd to begin with, always platforming Sam Harris.
Always claimed that he wasn't.
Stuff.
He just wants to ask questions. He just wants to have interesting conversations. He's a heterodox thinker.
We have Joe Rogan, again, a returning member. Now we also have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Brett Weinstein is back as well. Now we also have Russell Brand too.
Russell Brand! That's who Rusty Rockets is. Okay. I knew I remembered that from somewhere. Yeah, that's Russell Brand's Twitter @ is Rusty Rockets. Maher is an immense POS.
I know who this guy is, but I know he wasn't in the original one. So David Sachs. Then we also have Glenn Greenwald. We also now have Ice Cube apparently too. And we have Ron DeSantis.
Anybody want Ron DeSantis? Okay. Oh my God. See, so the whole like new atheist, you know, sort of, I mean, I guess you did have some people like Jordan Peterson is in no way a new atheist, right? I don't know if he was always super religious, but he was always super like Western civilization and generally that like kind of. Can anybody tell me about Ice Cube's descent into the right wing? Because I feel like I've heard a little bit about this, but I don't know that much.
And a guy called Jay Bhattacharya. Don't know who that last person is. So we have some new members. Give you a couple seconds to think about this. I read you out all those names and think about the ones you recognize. Like, what unites them all recently? It's COVID vaccine.
There's a new Dawkins podcast.
Either skepticism.
Yeah. Apparently, Ice Cube is a right winger now. I don't know anything about like what happened.
Flat out, just like.
And why are you not on Twitch? I don't know. Sometimes you like to go on YouTube, maybe.
Being an anti-vaxxer, right? Like Robert F. Kennedy.
Some people like to switch it up. Ice Cube had a transphobic tweet. I think I remember. Maybe he's gone turf. Yeah, I do not know.
You know, some of these other people who say they haven't taken the vaccine, because I think out of all of these people, I don't know one who actually has taken it. Maybe Jordan Peterson.
So,
and
I mean, who will claim, who will admit that they've taken it, right? Ben Shapiro, of course. said that he did. Well, basically, he made fun of people. Yeah, he told people to take the vaccine, right? And he is trying to kind of go back on that now. And I think he might have even said that he didn't take the vaccine, but it's pretty clear that he has. He's just it's not popular, right? It counts against you. And Ben Shapiro is actually getting it from a lot of sides right now, in terms of his. So he supported Ron DeSantis over Donald Trump, right? Mainly, probably, in that he feels like DeSantis has less baggage. That was the early DeSantis supporter. But more and more of those people have fallen by the wayside, because their whole thing about DeSantis was that he doesn't have as much on him. Like, Donald Trump has said so many things. People know where he stands. People know who he's prejudiced against, right? That makes it harder for him to gain a massive audience. Some people thought that even though DeSantis was obviously very, anti-trans, very anti-gay, that DeSantis could kind of slip by and be like, "What do you mean?" And he could shed his skin for the general election, right? And like lean towards the center. And that Donald Trump wouldn't be able to do that, wouldn't want to do that, right? So they started supporting DeSantis, right? The sad thing is that for DeSantis, mainly because of the way that he's gone after Donald Trump, the people that are left supporting DeSantis tend to support him, in some part at least, because they think that Donald Trump having a daughter who's married to a Jewish man is not anti-Semitic enough. Yeah. The people that said there's good people on both sides in Charlottesville, not anti-Semitic enough. And Ron's their guy. Ron's their...
These days, even though we all know Tucker Carlson definitely has taken it.
So it's going to be hard for Ben Shapiro, right?
He says he...
And the same people that hate Donald Trump for that reason probably also hate Ben Shapiro based on his identity.
Hasn't as well. But we pretty much know this is just a grift, and he has. And this links in nicely for my video I made the other day about Ben Shapiro and why they were turning on Ben Shapiro because he's vaccinated and promoted the vaccine, right? So now all these people are uniting around one...
And yeah, that's the other reason.
...thing, basically. COVID skepticism and all the conspiracy...
Jordan B. Peterson only takes a vaccine made out of beef, water, and salt with no cider.
...theories that go...
You can't have it polluted with cider.
...along with that. And also you can throw in there, like, completely against supporting Ukraine, obviously hating Joe Biden... And pretty much wrapped up in that is most of them, not all of them, think Donald Trump is some sort of anti-establishment force. But then we also have some sort of divide there with the Ron DeSantis stuff. Because a lot of these people like Donald Trump, but they prefer Ron DeSantis as kind of either anti-establishment because he was against COVID mandates and masks and stuff like that, which loads of these people love. That's basically what unites all these people. Like a vague notion of the anti-establishment only in regards to coronavirus and stuff like that. So there was a video recently of Ice Cube driving Tucker Carlson around, and that's all they spoke about. And Dave Rubin covered it, and here's Dave Rubin in his own words saying all this stuff. I have about
so
5
it sounds like maybe Ice Cube's a bit of an anti-vaxxer too.
minutes of his like 50-minute video saved. I'll probably play you about maybe 3 minutes of it. I'll edit out the parts that aren't relevant, but let's watch this together and then discuss the new intellectual dark web that Dave Rubin is hoping to lead, create. Let's listen.
But some of you that have been watching me for a long time, you remember the phrase I have not said.
I feel like Dave Rubin just wants to be relevant again.
In a couple of years, the intellectual dark web. I sense it's reforming. It's retaking shape. It's not for me to coin the new term, let's say, the new intellectual dark web. We could probably, Eric Weinstein actually came up with that. But this thing where Russell Brand is talking to DeSantis and Tucker Carlson
Was it Eric Weinstein? I always thought it was Barry Weiss.
Talking to Ice Cube, and Bill Maher is talking to Jordan Peterson.
They need to get Jerry Seinfeld in on this too.
Etc. It's starting to take form and take shape, and it's bigger than politics. Tucker Carlson, who, as you know, no longer with Fox, he's doing his solo thing. Unclear where he will fully end up. He's putting them on Twitter for now. Sounds like he might be building
Ice Cube used to be anti-establishment.
some sort of media empire. We shall see. He sat down or in a car. He took a drive with Ice Cube, rapper Ice Cube. Here are Tucker and Ice Cube talking about why Ice Cube did not get the vaccine.
Why wouldn't you take the vax? You had a direct order to take it. You were told to take it.
Yeah, I'm not real good with direct orders, but on a whole nother note,
but it was
Tucker's laugh.
a command.
I didn't.
I mean, they told. I'm sorry, they told you. I mean, they couldn't have been clearer about
Yeah,
it.
it was pretty clear. Did you take it?
Of course not.
Yeah.
You're not seeing the new Ninja Turtles movie specifically because of Cube?
It wasn't ready. You know, it was 6 month, kind of rush job. There's no repercussions if they're wrong, but I get all the
No, but
repercussions.
it's weird. It's weird. Like these people that are saying that it was a 6-month rush job. It was Operation Warp Speed, right? One of the only good things that Trump has presided over. Do they realize that was Trump? Are they confused about like who was president, who was in charge, who was in charge of the executive branch at the time? Like what there's so much cognitive dissonance here.
If they're wrong.
Was it a tough
He
call
reminds you of Splicer from BioShock.
for you?
No, it wasn't a tough call. I wanted it to be an example.
Yeah, you're right, Paul Skull. They're probably actually vaxxed to the
for my
gills.
kids, really make sure they didn't take it either. Show them that I wanted to stand on my convictions and that I was willing, to lose $9 million and more because
And more, like as in get intubated, right? Suffer from long-term consequences, organ damage, stuff like that. Yeah, you're really willing to give up a lot to show, to walk the talk.
probably lost more, since then.
This isn't specifically about the vax, although it's interesting now to find out that there were a whole bunch of people who privately weren't getting vaxxed. Some people did it.
Or they did get vaxxed, and now they're saying that they lied about it. Anyway,
a little bit more publicly, whatever it might be. But the bigger idea that people weren't just swallowing the narrative, that people were saying, oh, the machine wants us to do this and it wants to put mandates down. And it used 2 weeks ago was saying my body, my choice. Now it wants to force you to do things.
nobody was forced to take the vaccine unless you count, corporations that required it, unless you count workplaces that required it.
Things, and it wants you just because you work for somebody
Destiny and Vosh are part of the new idea.
that person should be able to force you to be injected, all that stuff. And a lot of people got red pilled.
I don't know
because
about
of it.
that.
Now, I have no doubt that Tucker Carlson and Ice Cube probably have wide disagreements, perhaps on borders and all sorts of political
Is there a band called Rage Against the Vaccine? Yeah, you would think so.
But this goes to the new thing that is taking shape right in front of us. And I think that all of us that care about freedom and free speech and decency and living in a country with people that are different from us and all of that stuff.
Getting infected needlessly,
We can help shape it right now, right? We can be the people with the clay.
They should just call themselves the pro-COVID party. We want COVID to affect as many people as possible.
That are doing the thing.
They're playing that game. What is that game called? You know the game where you are the pandemic? I think it's called Pandemic, actually. And you're literally what vectors of virality do I want to choose for my, vaccine? I want to be deadly enough to take down humanity, but not so deadly that it gets in the way of me spreading the, right? There's literally a Plague Inc. or there's a few of these, right? That's literally their mentality. They're on COVID's side. I don't know what to say.
Would be pretty good. Okay. So if they're sort of on that same team, what is that same team? It seems to be somewhat pro-truth, right? It doesn't just swallow what the narrative is. It's definitely somewhat anti-woke.
Truth, that's kind of a good thing. And wokeness, that's a bad thing. Sure.
I guess
okay.
Ice Cube's got some woke stuff within him, but
Does he have some wokeness within him?
Anti-machine.
What is his wokeness? Oh no.
It's showing you that politics is not the end-all.
Team virus, exactly.
Be-all.
So I find that hilarious for various reasons. I also
Worth getting it on Steam? I don't know. This is an old game, right?
love that he's saying
This is a pretty old game.
Cube is woke.
Miasma. Ooh.
Probably just because he's
That sounds like a great name for one of those games.
black. Because Ice Cube might be woke in that he said some stuff about the police and racism.
Is that
But
what
he's
it
not
is?
really
Okay.
woke when it comes to like this vaccine stuff or promoting anti-Semitism and stuff like that. Like, I feel like Dave Rubin doesn't
Oh
actually know much
wait,
about
Ice Cube is anti-Semitic?
him and is just assuming like because he's black he must be like woke or scared his audience will see him that way. Anyway, I find it weird. Also, another note on Dave Rubin, I just realized why someone like Ben Shapiro might not be included and why Dave Rubin is hoping this new grift takes off is because a lot of these people aren't religious. So they don't hate him for being a gay conservative. But Ben Shapiro said to his face he wouldn't even come to like a dinner party celebrating his marriage. Loads of conservatives turned against Dave Rubin because he's a dad now, right? So what I'm thinking with Dave Rubin as someone who likes to pivot around,
So I guess maybe that's why Matt Walsh is not on there.
with MAGA during the Donald Trump presidency. And now Ron DeSantis became more prominent. He's switched and now he supports DeSantis, right? And he feels like a less religious influenced Republican Party, because Donald Trump, despite, you know, obviously not being religious, is massively backed by evangelicals and stuff. He feels like that's better for him, I think, personally. And lots of people he listed there, I don't think would have much of a problem personally with him being a gay married man with children. But when you have the religious right and Ben Shapiro and all those people, they definitely do have a problem with that. So I feel like that is another pivot on Dave's part and maybe one he feels more comfortable in. But also, like, he doesn't actually believe the framing of, you know, Russell Brand is talking to Ron DeSantis. And, like, the ordinary person thinks, oh my God, I have so much more in common with the right than I realize. Because in terms of the cultural stuff, we don't have much in common. But we do often have stuff in common with the class stuff. And so do these people, right? But it's nothing the average person can relate to. All these people he listed are very wealthy people who can get along despite their maybe social differences.
Matt Walsh only eats the body of Christ. Oh my
to
God.
talk about some political agreements because they all have a class interest. And most of them are grifters or culture war warriors. So that's why the collection makes sense. And they're just staking their claim on being like anti-vaccine. Like, that's literally it. The new intellectual dark web all revolves around not getting vaccinated. And Dave Rubin talking about like not swallowing the narrative. Like, is that intellectual, right? Is it just like being an intellectual is being a contrarian? Like, every medical agency across the world telling you that medicine stops you from getting sick and decreasing your chance of dying, they all just must be lying. And hundreds of years of medical science, was it like the late 1700s when the first rabies vaccine was made in France and American children went over to get it? Like, that's all wrong. You're swallowing the narrative if you believe that. In my point of view, it is this grift and this cross-pollination. And like I said in my Russell Brand video last week, they just like him as a token lefty, as Dave Rubin's doing right there, saying, oh, Russell Brand is now promoting Ron DeSantis. How mind-blowing is that? And it's like, it's not mind-blowing if you know anything about Russell Brand's content right now and how much of a shameless grifter he is. It's not mind-blowing. And Russell Brand is like the worst grifter because he personally doesn't even believe most of his stuff. He's just doing it for a paycheck and ego.
Yeah, you're right, Impact. When you think about it, evangelicals are a strange phenomenon.
Striking with NHS workers recently. But then he has a fascist governor on his show talking about how great he is, right? That's clearly not Russell Brand's like personal politics. He's doing that because he's employed by Rumble and he's a grifter and he wants to make money. So the intellectual dark web is somehow even more intellectually bankrupt than the original intellectual dark web. And that's the one thing I will say, actually, is as much as I hate the original intellectual dark web, I do believe it wasn't a shameless grift, in that I think a lot of these people did sincerely believe in this kind of like very liberal view of, oh, we should talk about our differences. We're so much better than everyone. We talk about God and philosophy, and it's a place we can come together and do this and fight against Islam and the illiberal left together because we're against illiberalism and we're pro Western values and Western chauvinism, right? Where with this group of people, there's not really much kind of ideologically uniting them besides we don't want to take the vaccine and we'll grift off that, right? Like, why is Ron DeSantis in that? Like, he doesn't strike me as an intellectual. He's not very charismatic. Like, why is he there? And then, like, why is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in there? To be this token guy. But again, it's because he's anti-vax. That is literally it. But now let's talk about the original intellectual dark web and how the downfall of that kind of predicted what would come afterwards, meaning like what Sam Harris has criticized these people was saying, and Dave Rubin has talked about this as well. This original article by Barry Weiss, of all people, of course,
It was
in the New York Times, is
so,
kind of
I mean,
how
I guess that doesn't mean that like he attributed it earlier to not Barry Weiss but Eric Weinstein. So maybe that's right. I thought it was Barry Weiss, probably because of this article.
This whole intellectual dark web framing like took shape, and I just want to read some of it for you now. Here are some things that you will hear when you sit down to dinner with the vanguard of the intellectual dark web. There are fundamental biological differences between men and women. Obviously, Jordan Peterson started his internet grift with the transphobia. Free speech is under siege. Identity politics is a toxic ideology that is tearing American society apart, and we're in a dangerous place if these ideas are considered dark. I was meeting with Sam Harris, Eric Weinstein, Dave Rubin, and their spouses in an LA restaurant talking about how they turned into heretics. A decade ago, they argued, when Donald Trump was still hosting The Apprentice, none of these observations would have been considered taboo, almost as if society evolves and doesn't stay the same, and that's why you're conservatives, because you want it to stay the same. Most simply, it is a collection of iconoclastic...
What does conservatism conserve? Hierarchy.
Thinkers, academic renegades, and media personalities who are having a rolling conversation on podcasts, YouTube and Twitter, and in sold-out auditoriums that sound unlike anything else happening, at least publicly, in the culture right now. Feeling largely locked out of legacy outlets, they are rapidly building their own mass media channels. The closest thing to a phone book for the IDW is a sleek website, and this website is like basically completely dead and seems to be for sale now.
Yeah, the other thing is I'm like wondering like how is Dave Rubin doing, right? Is he still relevant amongst the people? Like, does he still have a following? I don't hear a lot about him, and I don't know how much of that is like him falling off and how much of that is just like that, like I don't talk to Dave Rubin people.
That lists the persona of the network, including Mr. Harris, Mr. Weinstein, and his brother and sister-in-law, Brett Weinstein and Heather Heying, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Douglas Murray, Majid Nawaz. The core members have little in common politically, but they all share three distinct qualities. First, they are willing to disagree ferociously, but talk civilly.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Shapiro seems to be doing okay. I mean, the Daily Wire is doing pretty well. But I don't hear as much about. Maybe that's because did Rubin join Glenn Beck's organization? Maybe that was the issue.
About nearly every meaningful subject: religion, immigration, the nature of consciousness. Second, in an age in which popular feelings about the way things ought to be override facts about the way things actually are, each is determined to resist parroting what's politically convenient. And third, some have paid for this commitment by being purged from institutions that have become increasingly hostile to unorthodox thought and have found receptive audiences elsewhere. So this is interesting, and we'll talk about this a bit later with Dave Rubin. Sam Harris talks about this. Yet there are pitfalls to this audience-supported model.
Rubin could probably rejoin the Young Turks, or the Young Turks could join the Rubin Report.
Is what Eric Weinstein has called audience capture. Since stories about left-wing outrage culture take off with their fans, members of the intellectual dark web may have a hard time resisting the urge to deliver that type of story. This probably helps explain why some people in this group talk constantly about the regressive left, but far less about the threat from the right. Sam Harris saying in this interview, "There are a few people in this network who have gone without saying anything critical about Trump, a person who has assaulted truth more than anyone in human history. If you care about truth, this is quite strange." We're going to get back to all of that a bit later. Barry Weiss concluding the article saying, "I get the appeal of the IDW. I share the belief that our institutional gatekeepers need to crack the gates open much more. I don't, however, want to live in a culture where there are no..."
And it's funny to see what they let in, right? Because like honestly, like these people don't have a leg to stand on. Like they weren't being gatekept in the first place. What was being, I mean, if their beliefs are what they say they are, they weren't being gatekept. What was being gatekept was things like, you know, the views espoused in the tiki torch marches in Charlottesville, right? You know, when people realized that's what alt-right meant, then people kind of slammed the door in the alt-right's face. And if anything, you know, they were opening the gate more for those people, right? Nobody's stopping Jordan Peterson from talking. Jordan Peterson did not even get fired from his university. Barry Weiss was not fired from the New York Times. These people quit.
Gatekeepers at all. Given how influential this group is becoming, I can't be alone in hoping that IDW finds a way to eschew the cranks, grifters, and bigots and sticks to truth-seeking.
Wait, is this
that was in 2018?
Sam Harris?
And that clearly didn't happen. Truth-seeking was
or Barry. I can't.
Least of their concerns.
I don't know if we're still in the Barry Weiss article or something Sam Harris said.
And it's pretty much all of them. And the only one who seems to
truth-seeking. That sounds like the Seeker of Darkness.
Have any principles was actually Sam Harris, believe it or not, because he's the one who basically called them out at the start.
Okay, well, I mean,
and has kept calling them out since, because they just all did this thing where they just grifted to the right the whole time, and they never called out conservatives. And when
I mean, good for Sam Harris for not being like as big of a piece of shit as some of these other people. Like,
Donald Trump became president, they all essentially either became Trump supporters or didn't want to criticize him.
But I'm not really...
Like Sam Harris was actually saying to Barry Weiss in that article.
Okay.
So it's funny how this was all framed. These people seeking to bridge the divide, speak truth to power, and push back against the liberal left and Islam, which they didn't talk about in that article. And now what do you have today? A collection of just rando, idiot, anti-vaxxers. And sure, you have some of the old crew in there, but let's keep it real. People like Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson had their brains like completely melted by the pandemic, right? They don't...
And by social media. And by audience capture too, probably.
Have any like goodwill or credibility from the general public. You have to be hardcore.
But honestly, like, Jordan Peterson didn't seem... He didn't really seem that ideologically hardwired from the beginning.
Or into like the far...
I don't know, am I wrong about that?
Right, conservative ecosystem to like these people anymore. And that's pretty much it, right? Everyone in that group, pretty much, you literally have to be far right adjacent to even like them now, because that's where the Overton window has gone with mainstream Republican politics, and they've all followed. And the pandemic was just a place where they could radicalize more people, even
yeah, so the old IDW claimed to be like, you know, ideologically neutral. It turned out that some of the people that were saying that they were, like Jordan Peterson, the people that are still in this new group that Dave Rubin's trying to put together, they weren't. They were right-wingers. They were hiding their power level, right? Others of them, like Sam Harris, you know, that had a line that they drew in the sand. Even Ben Shapiro is not pure enough for this new version of the IDW.
Oh, Donald Trump is the guy who started.
You gotta be, yeah, like Kavarnacle saying, you gotta be far right to put up with the shit. Anyway, the rest of this video is about Sam Harris, and while I think it's great that Sam Harris didn't go along with this stuff, I don't think that we need to waste any time on Sam Harris, because he's kind of a piece of shit in his own right. Let's waste some time with two other pieces of shit. This is Piers Morgan and the female Andrew Tate, aka Pearl Davis, who just wrote an anti-Semitic song, an homage to Mr. Nick Fuentes, Booger Nick himself, right? Trying to ingratiate herself into the Groypers. Let's see what this is about.
So Pearl Davis is the self-styled anti-feminist influencer who's creating major buzz online with a contrarian view. She's appeared in a couple of debates on this show. It's called Uncensored after all. We welcome any honestly held opinions. But this week, she's facing a major backlash for posting a song titled, Why Can't We Talk About...
So the looks that she gives, I don't know if she's trying to do these looks, or is it that she's just like not media trained? Like, watch her...
about the Jews, which she dedicated...
Like, one of the things that they tell you not to do, and like, I could do better about this. Oh, I did it. See that right there? That makes me untrustworthy. I looked off screen. That's apparently something that causes your audience to trust you less, right? Pearl Davis, you'll see her like eyes glaze over. She looks off screen. Like there's a lot of
to far-right commentator Nick Fuentes before later deleting it.
There we go again.
Why
Who's over there, Pearl?
can't we talk about the...
See, so she says everything but what she's saying, and you can see clearly what word is in there that she's not vocalizing. She's just a troll.
without getting kicked off of YouTube. Now, I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy, but I kinda wanna know why. Now there's all these conspiracy theories, and the more they talk, I think maybe they're right. But
she can't keep a straight face.
I can't even listen to the convo.
Well, Pearl joins me now, along with the New York author and founder of End Jew Hatred, Brooke Goldstein.
Wait, now she's in a different, she's in a different studio, so I don't think Pearl's looking at her.
Over in the States.
Kind of looks like it, but...
Well, you've come on the show a couple of times, right? We've had some spirited debates about feminism and stuff like that. And
did nobody tell her where the camera is?
I thought you've made some good points, and it's got lots of traction. Then I wake up the other day and I see this thing that's trending involving you doing
Pearl, why are you doing this? You're weirding me out.
This song. And I couldn't really believe what I was watching.
So, like, wait, if anybody is missing what that song is about, like, she's saying, why can't we talk about that? And she doesn't say why can't we talk about the, and she doesn't say the word, but clearly the word rhymes with ooze, right? So it's pretty clear, like, she's being anti-Semitic here, right? You know, like, she's looking at him. Is she? Okay. Wow. I mean, that's really unfortunate for her. That's really unfortunate. See, so maybe this is just a lack of media training. I don't know.
I didn't know. Why did you find it funny?
She looks at him like she secretly farted.
Find it funny?
Maybe he farted. I don't know.
Huh?
Did you find it funny? I mean, you know the backlash to it. I mean, you deleted it. You obviously thought you shouldn't have posted it.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do that? Genuine question.
I mean, the point was more about cancel culture and people getting kicked off of social media if you finished the song. It was more about, like, you can't talk about this.
But, like, what would you get kicked off of it for? And she's like... Anyway.
Topic without being canceled.
She's
by
not
the
saying
left and
that
the right.
she's anti-Semitic. She's just saying she doesn't think it's a good thing for people who are anti-Semitic to get kicked off of social media for being anti-Semitic on Maine, I guess.
A strong opinion either way. It was kind of just like tongue-in-cheek.
Wait, a PP reference? Like a politically provoked?
Didn't really expect it to get that crazy. It wasn't dedicated to anyone. I don't know why they say that, but that's not true.
I mean, Nick Fuentes is a...
There is some reference to Nick, right?
White supremacist. He's a Holocaust denier.
Uh-huh.
He said afterwards that you had dropped a diss track on the Jews, which he clearly took to be something which was, mocking Jewish people, talking about, I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy, but I want to know why. What do you want to know why?
Well, it was more like, why can't we talk about it? It wasn't like
you talked about the more conspiracy
other.
Theories you've heard about Hitler and the Holocaust, presumably.
I mean, whoever said that she's a troll and she's playing the media, you're right. That's what she's doing. It's a take-meister. It's literally a take-meister, right? She says something, then she comes on and she backs away from it. Is Pierce going to let her get away with that, though? That's the question.
I'm a fan of conspiracy theory. Like, people think I'm part of the CIA. There's a whole conspiracy thing online.
I don't think they would have you, Pearl.
And, I'm not for, like, silencing it either way. The point of the song isn't like I really have an opinion on the matter. It's more, I don't think we should ban people off of social media. So far so that I think it should be illegal to ban anybody off of social media unless they're inciting violence. That was the point of the song. I'm not really... It was more like tongue-in-cheek.
But just to be clear, what are the conspiracy theories surrounding Hitler?
It was just a joke. I was memeing.
Which you feel, the more you hear them, the more you're interested in them.
Well, I don't know, because I can't hear them.
Huh?
I don't
you know the ones.
you
know the ones that Nick Fuentes.
Well, I wasn't even talking about Nick. I was thinking...
That's literally not true. There's a whole site called Rumble dedicated to that stuff. Don't tell me she doesn't know about Rumble.
Of Yay, to be honest. I don't know why they put that Nick was the inspiration.
Yeah, she's like, I don't have an opinion on the Holocaust. I just want to find out more. I don't know.
That song. I was thinking of Yay.
Is that like... I mean, look, Nick might be a better speaker at enunciating is the anti-Semitism, but Ye doesn't have any problem being anti-Semitic.
You are aware of the big backlash to this and the deep upset from the Jewish community.
I certainly am now. I just posted that song and I woke up and I was like, article.
She's like, geez, people are so sensitive.
Article. I was like, golly.
Right, but are you
No, she wanted article. I mean, this is her social media strategy to stay relevant.
Crazy. You know, I think that, like, my whole point was that cancel culture is wrong. I am not speaking one way or the other about the issues. My question is, why are we canceled for talking about certain topics?
So you would allow Holocaust deniers to have space on social media to promote Holocaust denial to millions of people? You have 2 million people who subscribe to your YouTube, right? That's a big audience of people.
I'm not at 2 million yet. I'd like to be.
Right, but you have a lot of people that follow you on various
That's too many
social media platforms.
Yeah.
You put a video like that up, and there are going to be some impressionable young minds going.
I mean,
Hang on,
to
what's
be fair
Pearl
though,
saying?
to be fair, you got to think that some of her like follows are like ironic follows or
Adolf Hitler. Not saying he's a good guy, but I want to know why. The more conspiracies theories I hear, the more I have to think about it.
But
I took that to mean that you agree with Fuentes. And people like that.
Why did you cut off the end of the song?
because we don't have all day to spend on Pearl Davis.
But we can't even have the conversation.
What is the conversation you want to have?
Without being canceled by the left and the right.
But what
the
is
point is any speech.
No,
I
Pearl,
think
it's not
any
speech. It's not any speech. What is the conversation about Hitler and conspiracy theories and the Holocaust that you want to have?
I don't want to have any conversation. My lane is feminism. That's what
Well, you're
I'm
singing
talking
about Adolf Hitler.
Can I finish?
You are singing about Hitler.
Okay.
So you do want to have that conversation.
I want anybody that wants to speak on social media to be able to speak about what they want to talk about,
Including Holocaust
without
denial.
getting banned. Whatever they want
So
to
if
talk about.
Kanye wants to go to DEFCON 3, like, why can't we just have that? Why can't we just...
Holocaust denial.
If they want to talk about that, as long as they're not inciting violence, I think people...
Of course they're inciting violence. They're inciting a hatred of
I think that
Jewish people.
Social media is the new town square, right? You used to be able to go and say your opinions in the town square. Now we have corporations censoring what can and cannot be said. And I think that's wrong.
I feel like if I had more time that we would go from this to like, don't be a sucker. Has everybody seen that? I feel like everybody's seen that though.
Should be illegal.
Well, let me bring in Brooke.
When I hear her talk about town square, I think that's what I think of. Don't be a sucker.
Who's been listening to this? Brooke, I don't think Pearl quite understands why the wording of this song, which she deleted, to be clear, so obviously realised this had not played out maybe the way she hoped. The offence it's caused to the Jewish community. Why was it so offensive?
Well,
oh, that's really cute, Faye Molly.
First of all, I want to thank you for having me on and for highlighting this issue. Not necessarily highlighting Pearl, but highlighting the issue that what you pointed out
not necessarily
is that
for bringing on Pearl, but
we're really facing a crisis of societal conscience where someone like Pearl, who engages in hate speech.
And that's the thing. Look, I don't cover Pearl very often. Obviously, Pearl wants to be covered. Like, just like I don't cover Keffels very often. People that are trying to cause controversy on purpose and, you know, get attention, I don't really want to give them attention. All right, I'm not here for that. God, I just realized I compared Keffels to Pearl. Let me say really quickly that I don't think that Keffels holds these beliefs. Okay, so I've gone over issues with Keffels in the past. These are not them. But the common thread is that, you know, you've got somebody courting controversy in order to get covered, in order to make themselves a bigger deal than they really are, when they're really not that interesting, you know, when you get down to it, right? And there's not really a lot to talk about. Here, I think that anti-Semitism is important to talk about, right? And if, you know, Pearl's going to create a controversy that lets me parlay it into that and what I'm talking about most of all is like the creep of anti-Semitism, right? The normalization of anti-Semitism that lets somebody like Nick Fuentes be a public figure to begin with, right? Like him getting the kind of attention and getting taken as seriously as he is. You can blame people like Destiny for that. You can blame like all the people that are looking at him and kind of like use it. Maybe they don't agree with him, but they're using him for content, right? that's what's kind of bringing us here, right? So, when I bring up something like Pearl, it's for a reason, and this reason is to highlight a larger phenomenon. We've seen it here in Twitch politics before with a infamous VTube also a fraud, yeah, but frog is what I was trying to say. A VTube frog who said, well, what if maybe Kanye was right about about Jewish people, right? You have that kind of boiling of the frog in Twitch poll. You have that in other places. You have people kind of pushing and prodding to make this stuff more. Look at RFK, like saying what he said about Ashkenazi Jewish people, and then trying to claim that he did nothing wrong. There was no anti-Semitism, there was no racism there when there obviously was.
And actually, the irony is she's complaining about being canceled.
What happened to Gun Girl? I guess Gun Girl fell off.
And yet she's
I don't know.
on your platform. She has millions of viewers on the internet.
It sounds like she's kind of chiding Pierce a little bit.
And on social media, and she's
And I'm
complaining
here
about
for it.
being canceled. The crisis is that this is what is profitable now. This clickbait, this type of racial incitement is profitable on the internet. And
So the same way that Trump got press, right? The same reason that the media was covering an empty podium of Donald Trump and cutting away from a Bernie speech to do it.
Sitting here, I'm listening to Pearl. I don't know if she's just plain stupid or she's actually quite intelligent and knows that what she's doing is so sensational that it's going to make her a lot of money. But I want to say one thing. Pearl will disappear. She will disappear like many others before her because this is something that's just a moment in time. She's like a train wreck. It's like a car crash. For example, you shouldn't be looking at it, but you can't take your eyes off it. But I want to make one more point. I think it's so important, especially on this platform. Hatred is taught. Nobody is born like this. And I talk about it a lot in my book about the dangers of hate education. And it's not something that we can debate, that we can engage in a rational argument with. You can see what her opinions are. She thinks women shouldn't vote, women shouldn't have the right to divorce. She thinks that women should be able to work.
Yes.
She says these
yes, Queen.
crazy things
Now you're
about
putting words in my
Hitler.
mouth.
But there's
Now you're
no
putting words in my
rational,
mouth.
please don't interrupt. There's no rational argument with someone like this. And this is a mistake that my community makes, the Jewish community very often, that they think they can bring facts to the table, that they can debate somebody like Pearl and it's, you're going to get somewhere. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to get somewhere only by shedding the light on this type of bigotry to expose someone like her.
Let me
just the crazy person that she is.
All right, bro, let me go back to Pearl.
No, I mean, look, that monologue was unironically based. Like, that's how you should handle hate like this, right? You don't need to engage with Pearl to point out what's wrong with what she's doing. And you shouldn't. You shouldn't, right? Pearl is vying for her attention. Pearl wants a back and forth. Pearl wants to be seen. Pearl wants to be engaged. Instead, this woman's talking about her in the third person, and I am so here for that. Like, right, that's how you handle these people.
Let me just offer you some advice, right?
Thank you,
I don't
what's
think you're
up?
stupid.
Everybody's so nice to me
in the
tonight.
two appearances you've made previously on this program, I thought it was interesting. It was controversial in some ways, but actually a lot of people would have agreed with some of the things he was saying. There's no question about that. But you seem to know where the line was. Someone like Nick Fuentes doesn't know where the line is. Someone like Kanye West, who I interviewed after he went on some weird anti-Semitic trope nonsense. Kanye's been wiped out by what he did, or what he said about the Jewish people, because there are certain things where I am absolutely in support of the concept of free speech, right? But you can't go around telling Jewish people the Holocaust didn't happen as Fuentes.
That's
and people
not-
like Fuentes does say things like that.
But I'm not him. So
But
you're bringing me up. So it's like
no, but when you sing a song,
right,
and you talk about
who
Hitler,
determines what the line is, Pierce?
Well, I'm asking
who determines? Do you get to determine it?
No, I'm
Does she
asking,
get to determine
I'm asking you
it?
to.
Who gets to determine what the line
I'm asking you
is?
to work out in your head.
I'm saying the
you're not
line-
a stupid person.
the line-
When you say, I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy, but I want to know why. Right? When you talk about the more conspiracy theories about him I hear, the more I'm like, well, that's interesting. I'm just like agog that even now you don't seem to really grasp why singing that and releasing it to millions of people is incredibly offensive to Jewish people.
I think at the end of the day, Piers, I don't think it's for you to determine what speech should be allowed and not allowed.
What about you determining? Why did you delete it?
Why did I delete it?
Yeah.
Because it was just a headache, Piers.
Because you knew it was wrong?
I just think it's like, it's not the hill I'm trying to die on.
Right, but why did you choose that hill to die on?
I didn't choose this hill to die on.
You did. You released the video.
I also released 10 different
Oh my God, we got an ad break coming up. I didn't even see it happening, but here it is. The ad break is coming up in less than a minute, or about a minute, right? So if you don't have a Twitch Prime already, if you don't have a little like avatar by your name, you've got like a minute to get that, or else you're gonna be you have to miss what this brilliant conversation between Piers and Pearl here, so that you can get out of that with a Twitch Prime. You can get a free sub. If you give it to me, you will get out of that ad break. You can pay $5 to Twitch for that, or $6 if you're on iPhone. To get out of the ad break, or you could possibly, and this is if you're lucky, this is only if you're lucky, if you're active in chat, you might possibly be given a gift sub, right? It does happen from time to time, but it's going to happen more often if you are actually active there and people can see you and they're like, oh, that person's going to get sucked into the ad break in about 25 seconds, right? So if that's going to be you, you better figure out how to take care of that quick.
Talking about Adolf Hitler, are they?
Are we not allowed to talk about him?
You can talk about Hitler right to the point you say the more conspiracy theories I hear about him.
Look, I think that anyone should be allowed to speak about any conspiracy theory on social media. That is my point. It's not about Hitler. It's not
if
about
you really
the
believed what you
Holocaust.
did wasn't wrong, you wouldn't have deleted it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Don't you think?
I agree with Pearl.
Go on, bro.
What?
If I may just say one thing, as an attorney, I have to say that I do agree with her, that I am a free speech purist. And I think that even bigotry should be able to be spoken in the public sphere. But the problem of cancel culture is not against anti-Jewish speech. I think that's very clear. We see the scourge of anti-Semitism and Jew hatred rising on the internet. The problem is that there's no consequences for it, and the way that private companies
How are there no consequences for it?
Canceling is they're going after pro-Jewish speech. They're going after pro-Israel speech. I can't tell you how many times I'm contacted by people, and often my own clients, who are shut down on social media for saying anything positive about Jewish people, about Judaism, or about Israel. Yet these social media companies are unequally applying their own standards. And, while they're, for example, shutting down COVID deniers, they are allowing Holocaust denial speech. They are allowing people like Pearl to spew her hatred. So if we are really free speech purists, and that's what we are saying that companies should do, they should allow.
And the irony is that the other group that tries to conflate, Israel with Jewish identity are literally the anti-Semites. So
all speech.
I mean, are we that surprised? This is Piers Morgan, right? We knew what we were getting into.
I hear you. Listen, I would just
we
say
knew what we were getting
Unless it's
into.
incitement to immediate violence.
Right. I would say this to you, Pearl.
So we agree.
No, Pearl, I would say this to you in conclusion.
We're all on the same team now.
Oh my God.
In conclusion, look, you deleted this, so you clearly felt bad about what you'd put up, or you wouldn't have deleted it. You accept that?
No.
You don't accept it?
I just, it's kind of a headache. I was like, well, it just seems like a lot of headache to me.
Right. Or did you realize actually in that moment, from the visceral reaction from the Jewish community, you crossed a line?
All right, let's make this happen.
Worked out was there.
Look, at the end of the day, Piers, the song was about freedom of speech. It wasn't one way or the other.
It was all about freedom of speech and how great it was. It wasn't about anti-Semitism.
Why isn't maybe a good guy?
Why
oh my God,
keep
whatever.
Seeing people get banned on social media? My point is, I don't think there should be a line unless you are inciting violence.
Here's a
Would
line.
Piers, would we agree on that?
Listen,
yes or no? Yes or no? Would we agree?
Here's my point.
No, yes,
you haven't
no?
answered my question.
Okay.
I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy, but I want to know why. I want to know why what?
We can't have the conversation without being
about
canceled
whether he was a good guy.
You guys cut out the end of the song. You did 75. Okay.
The conversation about whether Hitler was a good guy. You want to have that conversation?
Look, there were pro-Hitler documentaries on YouTube in the earlier half of the 2015, and they were actually spreading anti-Semitic nonsense, right? I think YouTube's taken a lot of that stuff down. A lot of it doesn't exist anymore. But these were literally stuff that when Nazis were trying to spread their beliefs, they would go around like spamming these links. Like, have you seen this like greatest story never told, video? It's literally like a pro-Hitler documentary. Right, so YouTube realized that their algorithm was actually preferentially spreading hateful ideologies. They did something about that. They literally took it off the platform. Yeah, the stuff still exists on Reason. Yeah, Elon's trying to bring it back. Elon recently brought back somebody who had been banned for posting child exploitation materials on Maine. Right, oh my god, we already rated out. Okay, anyway, much love, everybody. Give my love to Nabil.